-28. But first, let's check in with Heather Wells and a look at your morning headlines. Good morning, Heather.
Good morning. Well, about 80 people were part of a virtual consultation on the province's plan to set up a supervised consumption site in the inner city. The proposed location is 366 Henry near Siloam Mission. Some people raised concerns about nearby homes and apartment buildings. Erica Hunzinger at the Aboriginal Health and Wellness Centre thinks it could actually make the area safer by building relationships in a welcoming place. A man convicted of human smuggling last year is asking a United States court to let him represent himself in his appeal. Harsh Kumar Patel was sentenced to more than 10 years for his role in a human smuggling operation that led to the deaths of a family of 4 from India in January of 2022. I'll be back with more Manitoba Stories coming up at 6:30.
Thank you very much, Heather.
Thank you.
Heather Wells with a look at your morning headlines. Well, we do have a yellow level warning for cold in the Parkland area that includes Dauphin, Russell, Roblin. That's because with the wind chill could feel like -40. Coming up on the show today in our first hour. You, a dog, and a festive doggy date coming up. We'll talk about how you can give a dog a very Merry Christmas. That and so much more in Winnipeg right now. We are at -17 at the airport, mostly cloudy, wind northwest, gusting to 45 with the wind chill feels like -28. Our temperature throughout the day is actually going to fall to -21. Slight chance of a flurry. Strong winds out of the northwest will continue. You are listening to Information Radio here on CBC Radio 189.3 FM, 990 AM in Winnipeg, on the CBC Listen app and streaming on YouTube. I'm Marjorie Dowhouse. Stay with us. World Report is coming up next.
On cue. As a kid, the director Ryan Johnson grew up attending youth group at his church, and he says that experience really taught him how to tell a story. He'll be here to tell you about his latest story in the Knives Out franchise, how faith inspired the latest one, and why he disguises clues as jokes.
A perfectly impossible crime.
Q with Tom Power. This morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland, and on CBC Listen, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is World Report. Good morning, I'm John Northcott. Prime Minister Mark Carney's governing Liberals are now just one seat away from a majority. Toronto area MP Michael Ma announced last night he is leaving the Conservative Party and joining the Liberals. Let's bring in Janice McGregor from our Parliamentary Bureau. Janice, did anyone see this coming?
No, particularly not Conservatives, who were circulating a picture on social media last night of Michael Ma smiling alongside Pierre Poilievre and his wife, literally the night before this happened at their own holiday party. Ma voted with the Conservative caucus yesterday afternoon, but before the day was out, he'd also met with Prime Minister Mark Carney, and shortly after 6, Liberals released his stunning statement that he was crossing the floor. He said he entered public service to help people to focus on solutions, not division. This latest addition to the Liberal caucus headcount multiplied the cheer at the government's end of sitting festivities last night.
Yeah, what's everybody's favorite number? What is it, Mona?
171.
Okay.
Closer to that majority they crave. Ma said his constituents like what he called Mark Carney's steady, practical approach. Markham Unionville, his riding, is a 905 swing seat.
And so, Janice, where does all of this leave the Conservatives?
Well, after the humbling experience of losing 2 MPs, Pierre Poilievre's office thought it had stopped the bleeding. But Liberal House Leader Stephen McKinnon told reporters yesterday that behind the scenes, the opposition is not united under its leadership.
Unfortunately, there is a part of the Conservative caucus that views obstruction as a good day for them. There are a number of Conservative MPs, they talk to me, they talk to my colleagues, who don't share that view.
Poilievre wasn't in Ottawa when this news broke last night. He was at a private home that was hosting a Conservative fundraiser in Toronto's wealthy Forest Hill neighbourhood. This latest floor crossing likely making the mood in that room somewhat less than festive.
Janice McGregor in Ottawa. Thanks, Janice.
You're welcome.
CBC News has the details of an expected announcement this morning by Federal Transport Minister Steve McKinnon. It's concerning the long-awaited high-speed rail project designed to connect Quebec City and Toronto. The first segment of the rail line will connect Montreal and Ottawa. That section chosen because it is the shortest and flattest part of the project. Public consultations are set to begin in January, but it is not expected to break ground before 2029. There's a new change in leadership on Prince Edward Island. Premier Rob Lance has stepped down to launch his campaign for the permanent leadership of the PC party. The PC caucus has chosen the Deputy Premier Blois Thompson to immediately step in as the 35th Premier of PEI until the party elects its new leader in February. Wayne Thibodeau has more from Charlottetown.
I will be seeking the leadership of the Progressive Conservative Party of Prince Edward Island.
In front of a packed room of supporters in Charlottetown, Rob Lance resigned as interim PC leader and premier, something the party's constitution requires so he can run for the position in a leadership contest.
I've heard it from my colleagues, from party members. The message has been consistent. They want me to keep going, and I listened.
The only other person in the race so far, Charlottetown lawyer Mark Ledwell, says he doesn't think it's appropriate for an interim leader to go for the job permanently. The party will elect a new leader February 7th. The PCs have a big majority in the PEI legislature, 20 of the House's 27 seats, and most of their current MLAs are supporting Lance. In the meantime, the caucus has chosen Deputy Premier Blois Thompson, a third-generation dairy farmer, as Prince Edward Island's 35th Premier. He'll be sworn in later this afternoon. Wayne Thibodeau, CBC News, Charlottetown.
Rising floodwaters have led to new evacuation orders for properties around Abbotsford, BC. These are in addition to the nearly 460 properties already under similar orders and more than 1,000 others on evacuation alert. An atmospheric river has deluged the Fraser Valley. Officials say the floodwaters are expected to peak today. Yasmin Renea reports.
I've been gauging that white car there to see how high it's been coming up.
In Abbotsford, BC, close to the Canada-U.S. border, John Will watches floodwaters completely cover a vehicle's tires and license plate. His home is under evacuation order, along with dozens of others in the area.
When it starts coming in my driveway, then I'll think about time to go.
After days of relentless rain, floodwaters from the Nooksack River in Washington state continue to rise in the Fraser Valley, shutting down a major route into Abbotsford last night.
We will do whatever it takes to protect people and communities, because in moments like these, no one stands alone.
BC Emergency Management Minister Kelly Green says staff are providing supports around the clock.
We continue to deploy flood assets and equipment like sandbags, tiger dams, and these will protect property and livestock.
Residents are being urged to stay out of evacuation areas and away from all flooded roads. The province says the coming days may be difficult as another atmospheric river is expected to hit the region Sunday and Monday. Yasmin Ranea, CBC News, Abbotsford, British Columbia.
And south of the border, Washington state is taking the brunt of the same weather system. Water levels there have reached higher than 4.5 meters as rivers across the west of the state are bursting their banks. 100,000 people are facing evacuation orders. A little-known case of aggravated assault in Nova Scotia is now before the Supreme Court of Canada, and it presents a challenging scenario for judges. Both the victim and the offender are Indigenous, and there are separate pieces of legislation that suggest each person needs special consideration when it comes to sentencing. Kayla Hounsel explains.
In June 2021, Harry Cope assaulted his on-again, off-again partner in Halifax. Both are Mi'kmaq. Cope pleaded guilty and was sentenced to 5 years in prison. So the case is not about guilt or innocence. Cope appealed his sentence, saying the judge hadn't properly considered the landmark Gladue principles. This area of law was intended to address over-incarceration of Indigenous people by requiring courts to consider systemic factors such as discrimination when sentencing. Jonathan Rudin is representing Cope.
We will never jail our way to reconciliation.
The Nova Scotia Court of Appeal did reduce Cope's original sentence, but then Crown Attorney Erica Kurosawa appealed the case to the Supreme Court of Canada, saying reducing the sentence didn't appropriately consider other legislation that says courts must prioritize sentences that deter others from perpetrating violence against Indigenous women.
Parliament intended for more serious sentences.
It's not clear when the Supreme Court will decide who's right, but its decision will provide some direction for all future cases where both the offender and the victim are Indigenous. Kayla Hounsell, CBC News, Halifax.
Scientists in Manitoba say they've never seen the kind of mass die-offs of geese they're encountering this year. It's part of an active avian influenza outbreak in Canada that has resulted in the deaths of more than 16 million birds over the last 4 years. Karen Pauls has more.
This is my first experience with this scale of mortality.
Last week, federal wildlife biologist Frank Baldwin visited Niverville, Manitoba, to check out dead geese on retention ponds in town. Samples were collected and tested. The cause of death, highly pathogenic avian influenza virus. Thursday, confirming 500 carcasses were collected in that community alone, with many more deaths reported in other locations across the province.
So these birds, when they get sick, they're unable to feed because they're unable to fly. Their proximate cause of death may be from freezing, but ultimately what led to them dying would be this virus.
Hannah Wallace is a virologist at the University of Manitoba's Kindrachuk Lab.
We would think that some of the birds that had been exposed throughout the last 4 years or so would have some protection. So it is a bit weird that we're seeing this many die.
She says the big concern is if the birds are eaten by wild or domestic animals, and then if that virus mutates in a mammal.
It could also then become better at infecting people. That's a distant possibility at this point, but that's always at the back of our minds.
Conspiracy theories are flying on social media about what's causing the deaths, but Niverville Mayor Myron Dick says trust the experts.
So I leave it to the scientists that have more knowledge and deal with this on a regular basis. You know, we put our faith in the professionals that know that more than we do.
Those professionals advising people not to handle the dead birds and keep their pets away. Karen Pauls, CBC News, Winnipeg.
And that is the latest national and international news from World Report. Remember, for news anytime, go to our website, cbcnews.ca. One of the top stories this hour, more on our top story. Another Conservative crosses the floor, bringing Liberals one MP shy of a majority. cbcnews.ca, more there for you. I'm John Northcott. This is CBC News.
Well, good morning, Manitoba. You are listening to Information Radio here on CBC Radio 1, 89.3 FM, 990 AM in Winnipeg, streaming on the CBC Listen app and also streaming on CBC Manitoba's YouTube channel. I'm Marjorie Dowhouse in for Marcy Marcusa this morning. Thank you so much for joining us. Coming up on this hour of the show, President Donald Trump's lead trade negotiator says the U.S. is considering breaking up its trilateral agreement with Canada and Mexico. We'll hear more about what this could mean on this side of the border. Also, some tips and advice on holiday gift giving for parents out there who might be struggling to help their kids navigate what could be a fraught season. But first up here on the show, a couch cuddle and a wintry walk. Up next, we'll hear how you can have a doggy date for a few days this holiday season. You're listening to Information Radio here on CBC Radio 1, 89.3 FM, 990 AM. I'm Marjorie Dowhouse. Thank you so much for joining us. Well, first at 6:11 with a look at your morning headlines. Here now is Heather Wells. Good morning, Heather.
Good morning. Well, Manitoba scientists say they are recovering an unprecedented number of dead birds. At least 500 bird carcasses have been found near streams in the last month. Frank Baldwin, a biologist at the Canadian Wildlife Service, says the die-off isn't or is likely entirely related to avian influenza. He says we haven't experienced this before in Manitoba at this scale, probably because most of the birds have usually migrated by this time of year when the virus is peaking. Manitoba Hydro's plans to keep power on for the next decade make only light use of a way to store renewable energy. The plan calls for Hydro to free up almost 1,800 megawatts, more megawatts of electricity, but it only relies on 5 megawatts of battery storage to back up new wind farms. Laura Cameron at Manitoba's Climate Action Team says the province is missing an opportunity. We're going to hear more in our next local news coming up at 6:30.
Thank you very much, Heather.
Thank you.
Heather Wells with a look at your morning headlines. Let's say good morning to our crew here on the show today. Darren Morash is in charge of streaming the show on our YouTube channel. Abby Adeyemi is our tech, and Corey Funk, our show director, also keeping an eye on that commute. But first, let's turn our attention to the forecast. Abby Adeyemi's sweater, I don't know if you can see it on camera here. It says bite me. What it actually means is biting weather.
Yeah,
right?
Your face is going to hurt this morning.
Yeah.
The weather is going to be biting. I'm looking at that beta cold across the province this morning. That Arctic air is finally settling into the province. It's going to really, really affect a lot of people outside today. We're talking about extreme cold warning in places around the Parkland region. We're looking at light notice that gusty winds across the province. The afternoon temperatures will only be struggling to reach around -11 in the south. Winnipeg right now is settling for -16, but the wind chill outside actually feels like -34. And let's see, maybe we get to see about -21 later in the afternoon, but we're going to be dealing. So if you're making that transition from one bus to another, it's going to be pretty cold. And similar conditions we're seeing in other parts of the south. We're looking at temperatures between -17 and -24 at this time. Modern is actually around -19, and we're seeing -14 in Sprague. Now, for that official yellow warning, aka extreme cold warning, centered on the Parkland region, we're looking at tracking it from Dauphin all the way towards Minnedosa. It's really going to get dangerously cold out there. We're talking about wind chills dropping to near -40 this morning. So please take precaution and try to, cover up, because a frostbite happens in minutes. And up north, we're still feeling that near blizzard conditions towards Churchill. But Winnipeg right now, we are just hanging around -16. Light snow still tapering off outside, and then it's going to get cold later in the day.
All right. Thank you very much, Abby.
Thank you.
Abby there with a look at your very cold forecast. Corey Funk joins me now in studio. Hey, Corey.
Hello. Yes. This morning on the run-in, those sidewalks were quite covered with snow. And so that's going to obviously be the case on some of the roads as well, some of those side streets. So it might be a little bit slippery, might be tough getting onto those main streets, might be also pretty slick on some of those main drags as well this morning. Looks like Highway 59, if there is a highway, according to Manitoba 511, is actually pretty poor visibility and still pretty covered between Winnipeg and Victoria Beach. So careful if you're hitting Highway 59 this morning. Other than that, though, if you do see something going on, you can give me a call on the CBC commuter line. I'll let folks know what you're seeing out there. 204-788-3093.
6:15 now. Well, furry friends are out of shelters and cuddling up to Winnipeggers this winter. Winnipeg Animal Services Doggy Date program is continuing this holiday season. If you've never heard, the program lets you take a dog home for up to 1 week. It's a small step for pet lovers who aren't ready to adopt just yet. Zoe Austin is the general manager at Winnipeg's Animal Services Agency. She's here with her dog, Lemon. Lemon was a part of the Doggy Date program before Zoe adopted her. I want to say a very warm good morning to both you and Lemon. Thank you so much for being here, Zoe.
Good morning. Thanks for having us.
So why are the holidays such an important time for doggy dates?
Right. So the shelter environment is stressful. No matter what you do within that environment, it's still a shelter. So over the holidays, we have a little bit less staff. You'll see if you come into Winnipeg Animal Services during the day, you'll see clerical staff, you'll see managers, you'll see all kinds of people with a dog at their desk or a dog in their office. That happens a little less over the holidays. We have a little fewer volunteers because they have their own family things. They're great and they give us so much of their time, but a little less of that over the holidays. So we'd love to get these animals out of the shelter into a home environment so that they can have a good holiday season as well.
And we're looking at some footage here of Lemon, who is live in studio with us, an absolute sweetheart, by the way. Take us back, the history of the Doggy Dates program. How did that start at Animal Services?
Doggy Dates started in 2018, so it's been a pretty long-running program. Our staff just thought, what a great idea to bring these dogs out into the community, make sure that community members can participate in the important work that Animal Services does. And then through Doggy Dates, we get to know a little bit more about who the dog is outside of the environment that's very stressful that they're in.
Mm-hmm. So what are their attitudes like before they go on the doggy dates and after they've had an opportunity to go out on one?
It's amazing. So we'll have a dog who's either really wound up in shelter, who's showing us all kinds of behaviors that maybe aren't desirable in a home. We send them out with a member of the community and they come back and they say, this dog is absolutely perfect in a home. Or we'll have a dog who's stressed out and a little bit more mellow, and they get out in the community and their personality is allowed to really shine. So we hear all kinds of feedback from our doggy daters that's so valuable in terms of getting the dog adopted and knowing who they truly are.
So who would be a good fit for this program? Who could possibly take one of the dogs out on a date?
Marjorie, we have a dog for just about anyone. we have Honey right now, who's a 3-legged dog. If you want a dog with 3 legs, we got her. We have more relaxed dogs. We have more high energy dogs. Sometimes we even have small dogs for doggy dates. We have senior dogs. There really is a doggy date dog for just about any level of dog experience, whether you're a first-time doggy dater or whether you're a seasoned pro.
So is it like a date where you might find a match, like, someone who has a certain kind, or a dog with a certain kind of temperament with someone who maybe has experience or not that much experience when it comes to dogs?
I'll give a shout out to our very talented staff on this one. They are very good matchmakers. Some of these doggy dates that they set up end up being long-term relationships and turn into adoptions because they're so good at it. So we do a little bit of a screening when people come in, just find out what their level of dog experience is, what they're looking for out of the experience with us, and then we send them out with the best dog for them.
Do you have a story? I know you've probably talked to so many people that have been part of this program, that have taken part in this program. Do you have a story of a dog and a person that kind of matched perfectly and ended up finding their forever home?
Absolutely, yeah. Some of our doggy daters come in because they're just not ready for another dog. Some of them have lost their long-time companion. So we had a gentleman who came in who was really upset at having lost his own dog. He was not ready at all. The very first dog we matched him with, he came back into the shelter. He said, there's no way this dog is coming back to you guys. This is my dog.
Oh, that's so wonderful to hear. Now, Zoe, if people are interested, where do they need to go? What do they need to do to set up a date?
Yeah, we're located at 1057 Logan Avenue. The best way to do doggy dates, because it's first come, first serve, so who we have available, you can come and get. So 1057 Logan between the hours of 12 and 5:30. That's when we do doggy dates. They just come down, we do a quick painless screening, find out what they need from us and what we need from them, do their match, and off they go.
Well, Zoe, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you this morning. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
And Lemon, thank you so much for being here, too. Lemon is a sweetheart, by the way. That was Zoe Austin and Lemon. Zoe's the general manager at Winnipeg's Animal Services Agency. If a dog-filled holiday interests you, visit the Animal Services Agency at 1057 Logan Avenue and speak to the staff.
CBC's New Year's Eve show is back, and we want to know, what are you doing on New Year's Eve? Last year, we reached 6.8 million Canadians as we counted down live in all 6 time zones. Now, we're looking to join celebrations across Canada. Are you getting married? Doing something special? Send an email to ask@cbc.ca, and we might send our cameras to your party. Get ready for the live Cross Canada Countdown.
You are listening to Information Radio here on CBC Radio 1. I'm Marjorie Dowhouse. Right now in Winnipeg, it is mostly cloudy, minus 18 at the airport, minus 17 at the Forks. We have a northwest wind at 30. Wind chill feels closer to minus 30 out there. Big changes could be coming for North America's trade landscape. The U.S. is considering negotiating separate trade deals with Mexico and Canada. U.S. Trade Representative Jameson Greer says the two countries are very different economically. With the 2026 review of CUSMA coming up, all options are on the table. For more, we've reached Moshe Lander. He is a senior lecturer in the Department of Economics at Concordia University. Good morning. Welcome to the show, Moshe.
Good morning.
Let's start with some background here. How does Canada benefit from being in a trilateral agreement with both the U.S. and Mexico?
So I'm going to give you a bad analogy to start off your Friday morning here. It's like having friends. If you have only one friend, then if they're busy on a Friday night, you're going to have a very lonely Friday night experience. But if you have two friends and one of them's busy, you can always go to the other one and say, hey, why don't we do something? And so when we moved from the original Canada-US free trade agreement and brought Mexico into NAFTA, now CUSMA, it gave us options. It gave us more friends. It gave us the ability to say, if we don't want to buy something from the Americans, maybe the Mexicans would be willing to provide it. And similarly, the Mexicans would view Canada in the same way that if they don't want to go to the US, they have Canada that might be able to produce something. And of course, the Americans saw the advantage in having two partners instead of just one. So it allowed us to diversify our economies more than they otherwise would. That provides greater choice, options, lower costs for consumers. It was benefits all around for the overall economies. And it might be surprising to realize that Mexico is now Canada's third largest trade partner after the slam dunks of the US and China.
Now, Moshe, if the U.S. were to go ahead with these separate deals with Canada and Mexico, what would that mean for Canada?
It's a lot of trouble for Canada then, because if they're going to negotiate with us bilaterally, then we're going to have to negotiate bilaterally with Mexico to try and hold together some sort of North American free trade arrangement. I'm not even going to say an agreement anymore. It's merely an arrangement that we have. That adds to the costs then, because if we have a different arrangement with the US than we have with Mexico, what's a Canadian producer supposed to do? It's like having instructions in one language to deal with the Americans and in a different language to deal with the Mexicans. And I'm not talking about English and Spanish. I'm just talking about that the way that you need to tool your operations, or the way that you need to worry about distribution channels, or even how you're going to get products to market is going to be different. And so that makes it more confusing for businesses. Businesses tend to scale back when there's uncertainty or when there's confusion. They don't like it. And that means then that consumers end up having to pay higher prices and have less diversity of choice. So it's really not a path that we want to go down. In terms of the negotiating itself, the American economy is 12 times our size. Their population is 10 times ours. They have a huge amount of leverage then in being able to dictate what the terms are going to be. Not that Canada and Mexico could gang up on the US, but they could maybe rein in some of their worst excesses.
Would there be any kind of advantages here, or is Canada just mostly going to be facing challenges if this were to happen?
Yeah, Canada doesn't have any real leverage. We saw in the first Trump administration that we tried to use targeted tariffs to get them back to the negotiating table in terms of backing away from the original tariffs that they inflicted on us 5 years ago. But the difference between now and then is now Congress is much more MAGA Republican than mainstream Republican. And so there's really nobody that's kind of holding back Donald Trump's worst excesses. The other difference is that those were meant as short-term strategic tactical moves rather than long-term strategy. And so I don't think that Canada is going to have any real levers that they can pull. If they're just negotiating with the US, the Americans can say that while we need you, Canada, you need us more. And so that gives them leverage then in terms of how they can deal with us.
So how does Canada prepare now for all this uncertainty?
We've already started to see it happening. A lot of 2025 has been devoted to preparing for what might come. Donald Trump has flip-flopped on every major social and political and economics issue in the last 40 years, going back to his time as a property mogul. The one thing, though, that he's been consistent on is he does not like free trade. So the moment that he was reelected, Canadian government, whether it was Trudeau or now Carney, realized we got to start preparing. And so if you looked at a lot of those major infrastructure projects that are fast tracking their way through the government process, it's meant to try and reorient Canada towards a more east-west than north-south alignment. Part of it is to try and pursue export markets beyond just the US. But part of it is realizing that if we want to maintain that strong trade relationship that we built up with Mexico, and if we're going to have to go through it bilaterally, we're not going to be able to transport goods across the US anymore because they would subject them to tariffs, taxes, quotas, or any other sorts of trade restrictions. We're going to have to deal with the ports of Vancouver, Montreal, and Halifax to get things down to Mexico. So I think we're starting to move that way. Businesses have clearly realized that they need to be less reliant on the US. And Canadian consumers, once they got past the emotion of elbows up, have realized that, hey, we can still buy things from the US, but maybe best to see if anybody else is offering the same sorts of goods at a comparable price.
Moshe, finally, could CUSMA stay mostly as it is despite these separate deal talks?
So despite all of my doomsaying for the last 5 minutes, there is the possibility that this is nothing more than just a negotiating tactic. It's meant to scare everybody and keep everybody at the table and give the Americans the ability to keep CUSMA intact, but with a bit of an American spin on it that maybe tilts a little more in their favor than Canada and Mexico's favor. So it is possible that everything holds together here. We might just have to make some concessions that some of these tariffs that we've seen in 2025 become part of the permanent landscape of ongoing CUSMA. But the main idea remains intact, that North America should be integrated mostly as one basic consumer market with as minimal tariffs as possible that the White House is willing to tolerate.
Moshe, thank you so much for joining us today here on the show.
Anytime.
Moshe Lander is a senior lecturer in the Department of Economics at Concordia University.
Stuff your stocking with laughter. The Winnipeg Comedy Festival is back for its 25th anniversary, and CBC is a proud sponsor. This is your chance to see The Debaters, the mega shows featuring the best of Canadian comedy and all the best homegrown comics making Manitoba laugh. The Winnipeg Comedy Festival, April 20th to 26th. Visit cbc.ca/Manitoba/community for more.
Festive season, there's one place to be with your holiday favorites on CBC. Whether you're a Grinch, hate, double hate, or full of cheer.
Nobody's walking out on this fun old-fashioned family Christmas. No, we're all in this together.
The season's best are waiting right here.
The bell still rings for me, as it does for all who truly believe.
For holiday joy from start to end. Watch free on CBC and CBC Gem.
6:28 now. You're listening to Information Radio here on CBC Radio 1. I'm Marjorie Dowhouse. In for Marcy Marcusa this morning, Corey Funk has just popped into the studio with a look at traffic. Hey, Corey.
Hello. Yes, it's really going to be maybe the highways this morning. Probably, well, here in the city, you can see there's a little layer of snow all across a lot of the roads, sidewalks, highways as well. Similar case, particularly it looks like Highway 59. According to Manitoba 511, is particularly covered with a lot, maybe even some poor visibility as well, as that snow kind of whips around. So if you're between Winnipeg and Victoria Beach there, it looks like it's less than ideal conditions and not great kind of throughout southern Manitoba. So I'd love to get some updates on the highways, but also if you're walking, you're biking. I know a lot of the bike lanes also now are covered again too. Give me a call. Let me know what you're seeing out there. If you want to give some update on what's plowed, what's not, give me a call, 204-788-3093.
Yeah, take it easy out there. It was a very slippery commute into downtown this morning. I know I saw a plow going by here on the sidewalk in front of our studio at 541 Portage Avenue. So it looks like that some of these sidewalks are going to be cleared here this morning.
Yeah, they're out and about.
All right, thank you very much, Corey.
Thank you.
Corey Funk there with a look at your commute. Well, still ahead here, coming up in business news, the head of Lululemon is stepping down next month, and Australia's social media ban for children under 16 is being challenged. We're going to get all the details coming up with Crystalie Ramlakan in your business news, so stay tuned for that. You're listening to Information Radio here on CBC Radio 1, 89.3 FM, 990 AM in Winnipeg, streaming on the CBC Listen app, and of course on CBC Manitoba's YouTube channel. Stay with us. Coming up next here on your CBC station is your CBC Local News with Heather Wells.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 6:30, it is chilly, and just get set for it. It's going to get colder. Our temperature is falling today. This afternoon, we'll be at minus 21 with blowing snow and the wind chill that'll feel like minus 34. Bundle up. Winter is here. The number of dead birds recovered in Manitoba this fall is growing by the hundreds. Since mid-November, scores of geese carcasses have been found in Niverville. The Canadian Wildlife Service says that number has now jumped to around 500. Dead birds were also found in Winnipeg and in the Red River north of the perimeter. Conservation authorities believe the deaths of the birds are almost all related to the H5N1 avian influenza. And that is surprising to Hannah Wallace, a virologist at the University of Manitoba.
We would think that some of the birds that had been exposed throughout the last 4 years or so would have some protection. So it is a bit weird that we're seeing this many die.
Wallace says the late migration could have played a role in the suspected influenza outbreak. Flocks of birds stayed in Manitoba during the peak of bird flu instead of flying south this year. Manitoba Hydro's plan to keep the power on for the next decade makes only light use of battery storage. A clean energy critic calls that unambitious. But the finance minister says batteries remain untested. CBC's Bartley Kivas reports.
An early version of Hydro's plan to free up almost 1,800 more megawatts of electricity makes light use of a way to store renewable energy. The plan calls for only 5 megawatts of battery storage. Laura Cameron of Manitoba's Climate Action Team says that's nothing compared to Ontario. It's building hundreds of megawatts of battery storage to back up variable power sources like wind farms and solar arrays.
The idea that Manitoba is only considering 5 megawatts in the next 10 years it's astounding.
Cameron says more battery storage could make wind farms planned for Manitoba more reliable. But Adrian Sala, the NDP cabinet minister responsible for Hydro, says the province should not charge into batteries. He says battery technology is expensive and untested.
We need to do that cautiously and start small so that we can ensure that we're protecting the affordability side of the equation.
A more detailed version of Hydro's plan to bring more energy online is due early in the new year. Bartley Kivas, CBC News, Winnipeg.
A panel of experts had their work cut out last night, quelling people's fears about the safety of a proposed supervised consumption site in the inner city. The province wants to put that site at 366 Henry Avenue. Deputy Police Chief Scott Halley says safety is an utmost concern for Winnipeg Police, but he says they'll also have help from other community groups.
The intent is for all of us working together, communicating well together to ensure that any safety issues that are occurring within the area are addressed by any number of partners right across that spectrum.
A third consultation for businesses in the area is scheduled for Monday night. A man convicted of human smuggling last year is asking a United States court to let him represent himself in his appeal. Harsh Kumar Patel was sentenced to more than 10 years for his role in a human smuggling operation that led to the deaths of a family of 4 from India in January 2022. Patel says he has no choice but to represent himself in his appeal after he raised concerns with what he calls incompetent conduct by his counsel. His lawyer says he would have filed an excellent appeal brief in this case, but respects Patel's choice. Mark Carney's Liberals are one member closer to majority government. Toronto MP Michael Ma is defecting from the Conservatives just in time for the Liberals' Christmas party.
So let's give a warm welcome to our newest member of the Liberal Party, Michael Ma.
Wow, such a big welcome. Thank you. Thank you.
Ma's arrival comes weeks after Nova Scotia MP Chris D'Autremont crossed the floor and Alberta's Matt Genereux announced his resignation. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre says Ma has let down his constituents, adding he will eventually have to answer to them. Now, the switch was unexpected, with Ma at the Conservative holiday party just Wednesday. Ma says apart from Poilievre, he told no one, but he did, he says, consult with people in his riding. Federal Transport Minister Steve McKinnon is scheduled to make an announcement today regarding the long-awaited Toronto to Quebec City high-speed rail project. CBC News has learned the first section of the line to be built will be between Ottawa and Montreal. That has been selected because it is the shortest and flattest part of the project. Public consultations are set to begin in January, but construction isn't expected to get underway before 2029. Well, the smallest crowd of the season at Canada Life Centre for another Jets loss.
Alex Iafallo scores!
Alex Iafallo in the first period on TSN as the struggling Jets fall 6-3 to the Boston Bruins. Jets head coach Scott Arniel calls the result disappointing.
It was just the inconsistency of kind of building off of, good parts of the game. And there were stretches there where we'd go 2 or 3 minutes where we gave up grade A opportunities. So just got to keep hammering it home here.
That's Winnipeg's third straight loss. Next up, the Jets host Washington tomorrow. You can find more news updated throughout the day at cbc.ca/Manitoba.
Let's send some good thoughts to the Jets, and hopefully they can turn this around. 3 losses in a row. Washington's not going to be easy, too, Heather.
Oh, I know. I feel like Ovechkin always has our number.
Yeah, he's a great player, if not one of the greatest. Heather Wells, thank you so much.
Thank you.
With your CBC Local News, that is Heather Wells, 636. You're listening to Information Radio here on CBC Radio 1, 89.3 FM, 990 AM in Winnipeg, on the CBC Listen app and streaming on CBC Manitoba's YouTube channel. I'm Marjorie Dowhouse in for Marcy Marcusa this morning. Thank you so much for joining us. Let's turn our attention now to the forecast because we do have a weather warning that is currently in place right now. Right, Abby?
Yes, I'll tell you, Marjorie. It's like Mother Nature says, it's about time I serve equal servants. Because remember, Tuduli Lake and Churchill, they've been dealing with this wind chill in the values of minus 40s, even since the start of the week, and as far back as last week, and now it's coming closer to southern Manitoba. And now the folks in Dauphin will have to have a taste of what it feels like for folks in the north. Frigid across the province, flurries like for most of the areas in the morning, and then this extreme warning in effect for that Parkland region. We're looking at wind chill values in the range of minus 40, and even some areas might get to minus 41. But overall, just expect a biting cold day with gusty winds that will be feeling dangerous outdoors, so you need to take care. Most regions will struggle in the south to get to minus 11, but I don't think we will get there. And while the northern part of the province, we will see highs close to minus 18. Winnipeg right now, minus 17. We're still spotting some light snow outside. The skies should clear as we get into the morning. Then we're going to be dealing with gust and northwest winds. That's going to be causing some blowing snows here and there. And that will drop our temperatures to about minus 21 by the afternoon period. That wind chill, you will deal with it. It's going to feel like minus 34, but no warning for the Winnipeg area yet till we get close to that minus 40. In the Pembina Valley region, more than Winkler Altona down to the U.S. border, we're looking at temperatures around minus 19, minus 20s, depending on where you are. Light snow there also clearing later, and temperature slides to about minus 22. And that wind chill will sting. It's going to be around minus 35. We head west towards Brandon. We saw some hazy conditions earlier, but that's clearing out, and now temperature sitting around minus 24. Some strong winds will keep, the wind chill feel close to minus 38 for folks in that region. Your temperature only falls further to about minus, it's going to stay mainly around minus 24 for today. For Dauphin, we're seeing extreme cold warnings there, minus 24 at this time. It's clear, but the wind chill feels like minus 40. So I wouldn't really want to say you're going to warm to minus 22 because it's going to be cold outside. Gimli minus 18 to start. A slim chance of snow this morning before the skies will clear, and you drop to minus 21 later. For the powerfully influenced surrounding communities, we're seeing people say, hey, it's kind of blowing snow here. Minus 21 is the high for today, but currently you're sitting around at minus 26. Thompson, light snow also drifting, blowing here and there. Minus 23 at this time. We should see that snow, continue off and on for the day, and then your highs would sit around minus 20, but the wind chill sits near minus 35, 36 for folks in that part of the province. Then we go towards Churchill, Lynn Lake, Tuduli Lake. Lynn Lake around 24 at this time. Tuduli around 19, and Churchill 19 degrees, and minus 19 rather at this time. Light snow, we're looking at about 2 to 4 centimeters of snow for that part of the province. Now this snow, we're tracking it. It's saying it's building towards a near blizzard conditions later tonight. So we're still watching that. Your highs only get to minus 13 later, but the strong winds is something folks in the Churchill and York region will contend with this morning. Minus the wind chill, that's going to feel like minus 22 in the morning, and then by the afternoon period, it's going to get close to minus 29. So risk of frostbite across board this morning. Dangerously cold. It's going to be more like that day. Winnipeg, the snow on the ground is going to blow around, so prepare for that. We're seeing temperatures around minus 17 at this time, and we only get to, I wouldn't say we warm up much. It's just, I don't like saying we warm because the wind chill is something you have to deal with this morning.
It's cold.
It's going to be, your face will hurt.
Yeah, it's going to be cold. Thank you very much, Abby.
Thank you.
Abby Adeyemi there with a look at your forecast. Well, let's see how the morning commute is going so far. Corey Funk joins me again in studio. Hey, Corey.
Hello. Yes, snowy commute so far, so you might see some covered conditions on the highways and the roads and sidewalks here in the city and the bike lanes too. Haven't heard of any major issues, but and I'm looking at Manitoba 501 and the highways, Highway 59 between Winnipeg and Victoria Beach, as well as the highways around the Paw and the highways around Thompson, all looking like they're being reported as covered with some poor visibility. So careful if you're in those areas. Other than that, though, if you do see something going on, you want to give me a call. That number, 204-788-3093.
Thank you very much, Corey.
No problem.
Corey Funk there with a look at your commute. It is 6:41 now, and Chrisley Ramlakan is here with a look at the business report. Good morning, Chrisley.
Hey, good morning, Marjorie.
So the head of Lululemon is stepping down next month. Why is that?
So this is after public pressure from the company's founder. So the maker of yoga clothing is looking for a new leader. Chief Executive Calvin McDonald will step down, like you just said, as you know, the brand that really helped put athleisure on the map looks to regain its footing in a very crowded market. Now, shares of the company have fallen nearly 50% over the year as it struggled to compete with younger rivals like Alo Yoga. And founder Chip Wilson has criticized the company's CEO and board of directors over performance and what he called a lack of innovation. And in October, Wilson even took out a full-page ad in the Wall Street Journal detailing his dissatisfaction. Now, some people may remember Wilson resigned as chairman of the board in 2013 after he suggested issues with pants such as pilling and sheerness were not about the product, but about certain body types. However, though, shares of the company jumped on a strong earnings report yesterday. Now, many companies have struggled under pressure from tariffs and a slowdown in consumer spending. And some analysts are questioning whether the brand's struggles required new leadership. They say it is difficult to keep market share after growing enormously like Lululemon has, and having a lot of intense competition out there in the marketplace. It seems like almost every brand now has their own line of athleisure wear or leggings.
Athleisure wear is so big now. Chrisley, we're going to shift gears now. We're going to talk about Australia's social media ban here for teens under 16 is being challenged. That ban came into effect this week. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, that's right. So Reddit has launched a legal challenge now, arguing that the new law is ineffective and goes too far by restricting political discussion online. So the ban targeted 10 major services, including Reddit, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, and X. And the platforms are supposed to take reasonable steps to prevent underage access by verifying ages of users through things like pictures, ID, or bank details. But Reddit says the law could isolate teens from engaging in age-appropriate community experiences, including political discussions. So it says the political views of children inform the electoral choices of people like parents and teachers and, other people that care about young people's opinions. And Reddit also says it is different from traditional social networks and that really it's a forum for knowledge sharing. Now, despite its objections, Reddit says the challenge is not an attempt to avoid complying with the law, nor is it an effort to retain young users for business reasons. It just says that it believes there are more targeted measures to protect young people online without resorting to blanket bans.
And Chrisley, finally, we're going to stay here with social media. Instagram's CEO is telling employees to stop meeting so much.
Yes, that's right. So Instagram's chief recently ordered staff back to the office 5 days a week. And his memo also included another key directive: have fewer meetings. So he wrote, "We all spend too much time in meetings that are not effective and it's slowing us down." He said employees should have bi-weekly one-on-one meetings and decline meetings that fall during their focus blocks. And he added every 6 months, staff should cancel all recurring meetings and only re-add the ones that are absolutely necessary. Now, experts say this is, broadly a good approach. I mean, they say meetings are not inherently the enemy. Meetings, of course, can have benefits with better coordination, employee engagement, and decision-making. But the problem is wasted time in meetings. And bad meetings are often ineffective, unnecessary, bloated in size or time, or dominated by the organizer. And, even successful meetings have their limit. You can only take in so much during a meeting. Now, other companies such as Shopify and Pinterest have also targeted meeting overload. And a Microsoft report found that half of all meetings take place between 9 and 11 a.m. and 1 to 3 p.m., peak productivity periods for many people that are maybe wasted on calls.
Well, Crystalie, thank you so much for the business report this morning, and have a good weekend.
You too. Thanks, Marjorie.
That is Crystalie Ramlakan with the business news. After making 7 albums, Desiree Dorian is still finding ways to challenge herself. Her next project will be the first she's produced, a rarity for women working in the music industry. Here's the first single off that new album. This is Let Them.
On burning, but some will question all your transgressions. Second guess
That is Desiree Dorian with Let Them. Coming up now to 6:51. It's a cold start here in Winnipeg, mostly cloudy, minus 18 at the airport. Northwest wind at 30. Wind chill feels like minus 30 out there. The holidays are different for everyone, but for parents, it's hard to escape feeling a touch hemmed in by all of it, especially when it comes to gifts. Who gets them? Who gives them? And to who? It sometimes must feel a bit like a list that only grows and never shrinks, from friends to schoolmates, teachers, caregivers, and of course, family. For some advice, we've got S. Bear Bergman with us this morning. He is a father of 3 and author of Special Topics in Being a Parent, a Queer and Tender Guide to Things I've Learned About Parenting, mostly the hard way. And Bear is in our Regina studio. Good morning. Welcome to the show.
Good morning.
Let's start with you. What's your overall take on kids and giving gifts this holiday season?
I mean, I'm stressed out about shopping, as I think every other parent I know is also stressed out about the shopping. We're worried about, can we buy enough gifts? Did we buy too many gifts? Are they the right gifts? And I think that's very reasonable. We're all being marketed to 24 hours a day right now that the way to show your love is spend more money. But here's the thing. When I talk to adults about their favorite childhood memories of the holidays, they're almost never about the gifts. People's favorite memories fall basically into 2 categories. And one of them is friends and family they got to spend a lot of time with, especially people they don't see a lot, and all the extra dessert that they got to eat, or at a time that they wouldn't usually get to eat it. And so if you're feeling stressed out about the presents, I just want to say, for $5, get your kids up early, bake a cake with them, let them eat it for breakfast. Guaranteed you've got a great holiday memory.
I love that idea. So, Bear, how did you navigate everything? What have you done in the past that has worked really well?
So we accidentally figured this out. I feel like I need to say this. I was not smart. I was just lucky in this regard. But I really thought before we had children that we were going to be a family that wrote thank you notes for presents. That did not happen. But I was always sort of thinking about the thank you process. And so a few days after a holiday or a birthday, I'd get the kids to get their new presents out. I would take pictures of them wearing the thing or using the thing. I'd ask them, what do you like about the art set that Nana and Grandpa sent you? And they'd say, oh, it's got a lot of colors, and I didn't know oil pastels were so cool. Sometimes I would text them the pictures and the notes, or sometimes I'd use one of those, internet postcard services that mails a physical thing. But what I eventually figured out is that we were getting this incredibly nice echo of the holiday or the birthday after the frenzy of unwrapping was done, that really was letting the kids connect to the idea that, oh, all these people love them and thought about them and picked stuff out and brought it over or sent it. And it gave us this sort of this really nice moment where the holiday felt longer. And I realize this sounds cheesy, but I'm not afraid of it. Also deeper. And I love it. It's really nice.
This can be a very stressful time of the year. For parents, you've got so much going on. There's the family and everything to think of and everything. So what are some of the tips that you have if parents are feeling really overwhelmed?
I mean, one thing I would just like to say is that it is great to thank the teachers and the leaders and the coaches and the next door neighbor who shovels your walk and the postal carrier, but there is no rule that you have to do that in December, right? Put it on the calendar for March. Do it for St. Patrick's Day. Write a little note that says, we're so lucky to have you in our lives. Nobody's going to be mad about a leprechaun-shaped cookie instead of a snowflake-shaped cookie. You can just do that later. That's one thing. And the other thing, dads, men, hello, I'm talking directly to you now. Like, dads, we have got to get in the game here. And I think that there's a lot of sweetness and excitement available in sitting down and making lists with your kids of everyone you want to buy gifts for and then taking them to do the shopping. But this has to be the last generation of moms who don't get anything in their stocking, or who only get one gift, or who spend the whole holiday season so overwhelmed by everything there is to do that they can't enjoy it. Right? Like, dads, it's time for us to get off the bench if we're not really participating in all the holiday stuff, figure out what we can do, and go do it. There's a lot of fun to be had. This is a great way to, get started, and it really helps to sort of spread that sense of overwhelm out so everyone can enjoy the holidays a little bit more.
Oh, Bear, some great stories and tips in there. Thank you so much for joining us today, and have a happy holidays.
Thanks so much. You too.
Take care. Esper Bergman is a father of 3 and author of Special Topics in Being a Parent, a queer and tender guide to things I've learned about parenting, mostly the hard way. Let's go now to Heather Wells and a look at our morning headlines. Good morning, Heather.
Good morning. Well, Manitoba Hydro's plan to keep the power on for the next decade only makes light use of battery storage, and a clean energy critic calls that unambitious. A man convicted of human smuggling last year is asking a United States court to let him represent himself in his appeal. Harsh Kumar Patel was sentenced to more than 10 years for his role in a human smuggling operation that led to the deaths of a family of 4 from India in January 2022. We'll hear more in our next local news coming up at 7:30.
Thank you very much, Heather. 6:58, mostly cloudy right now in Winnipeg. It is slippery out there because we got some snow overnight, so take care no matter where you're going and how you're doing it. -18 right now in Winnipeg, northwest wind at 30, with the wind chill feels like -29. We're actually falling to -21 here today in Winnipeg. Wind chill will feel like -34. We do have a yellow cold warning for the Parkland area, including Dauphin, Russell, Roblin. Wind chill could feel like -40, so take care if you have to be outside today. Well, still ahead here on Information Radio, a pre-Christmas bombshell as another Conservative MP crosses the floor to join the Liberals. We'll examine how significant this development is just as MPs go home for the holidays. Also, 'tis the season of giving after a year of inflation. We wanted to know whether people are donating more or less. Stay with us. World Report is next.
This is World Report. Good morning, I'm John Northcott. Prime Minister Mark Carney's governing Liberals are now just 1 seat away from a majority. Toronto area MP Michael Ma announced last night he is leaving the Conservative Party and joining the Liberals. Let's bring in Janice McGregor from our Parliamentary Bureau. Janice, did anyone see this coming?
No, particularly not Conservatives, who were circulating a picture on social media last night of Michael Moss smiling alongside Pierre Poilievre and his wife, literally the night before this happened at their own holiday party. Ma voted with the Conservative caucus yesterday afternoon, but before the day was out, he'd also met with Prime Minister Mark Carney, and shortly after 6, Liberals released his stunning statement that he was crossing the floor. He said he entered public service to help people to focus on solutions, not division. This latest addition to the Liberal caucus headcount multiplied the cheer at the government's end of sitting festivities last night.
Yeah, what's everybody's favorite number? What is it, Mona?
171.
Okay.
Closer to that majority they crave. Moss said his constituents like what he called Mark Carney's steady, practical approach. Markham Unionville, his riding, is a 905 swing seat.
And so, Janice, where does all of this leave the Conservatives?
Well, after the humbling experience of losing 2 MPs, Pierre Poilievre's office thought it had stopped the bleeding. But Liberal House Leader Stephen McKinnon told reporters yesterday that behind the scenes, the opposition is not united under its leadership.
Unfortunately, there is a part of the Conservative caucus that views obstruction as a good day for them. There are a number of Conservative MPs, they talk to me, they talk to my colleagues, who don't share that view.
Poilievre wasn't in Ottawa when this news broke last night. He was at a private home that was hosting a Conservative fundraiser in Toronto's wealthy Forest Hill neighbourhood. This latest floor crossing likely making the mood in that room somewhat less than festive.
Janice McGregor in Ottawa. Thanks, Janice.
You're welcome.
Our colleagues at Radio Canada are reporting that Federal Transport Minister Stephen McKinnon is about to announce that the first segment of the high-speed rail line will be built between Montreal and Ottawa. The route between the two cities has not yet been determined, but a stop in Laval will be part of this initial phase of development. The first sod scheduled to be turned in 2029. The high-speed rail line is eventually supposed to connect Quebec City and Toronto. Rising floodwaters have led to a new evacuation order for properties around Abbotsford, BC. These are in addition to the nearly 460 properties already under similar orders and more than 1,000 others on evacuation alert. An atmospheric river has deluged the Fraser Valley. Officials say the floodwaters are expected to peak today. Yasmin Renea reports.
I've been gauging that white car there to see how high it's been coming up.
In Abbotsford, BC, close to the Canada-U.S. border, John Will watches floodwaters completely cover a vehicle's tires and license plate. His home is under evacuation order, along with dozens of others in the area.
When it starts coming in my driveway, then I'll think about time to go.
After days of relentless rain, floodwaters from the Nooksack River in Washington state continue to rise in the Fraser Valley, shutting down a major route into Abbotsford last night.
We will do whatever it takes to protect people and communities, because in moments like these, no one stands alone.
BC Emergency Management Minister Kelly Green says staff are providing supports around the clock.
We continue to deploy flood assets and equipment like sandbags, tiger dams, and these will protect property and livestock.
Residents are being urged to stay out of evacuation areas and away from all flooded roads. The province says the coming days may be difficult as another atmospheric river is expected to hit the region Sunday and Monday. Yasmin Ranea, CBC News, Abbotsford, British Columbia.
And south of the border, Washington state is taking the brunt of the same weather system.
We're going to be lowering our rescue somewhere. Probably picking up 2 survivors, going to the LZ to drop them off, and then come back for the next 2.
A U.S. Coast Guard helicopter positions to airlift 2 people stranded in a submerged house in the town of Sumas, Washington. Water levels there have reached higher than 4.5 meters as rivers across the western part of the state are bursting their banks. 100,000 people are facing evacuation orders. Washington's governor, Bob Ferguson, has declared a statewide emergency. The UN says more than 800,000 people in Gaza are at risk of flooding after a powerful storm battered the beleaguered territory. Storm Byron has collapsed buildings and deluged the camps of people displaced by the Israel-Hamas war. 3 more people died overnight, reportedly bringing the total number of deaths from the severe weather to 12. Rafi Boudjikanian has more.
Allah
A prayer chant in the west of Gaza City to mourn the loss of Khader and Khalil Hanoune. Their cousin Marwan tells a freelance videographer working for CBC News they died when a wall collapsed on their tents early this morning. Also in Gaza City, 9-year-old Hadil Hamdan died due to the cold, says the child's father, Abdullah. For months now, aid organizations have warned that tents for the Palestinians displaced by the Gaza conflict are inadequate for winter.
We need shelter and reliable shelter commodities, right? So we're talking proper tents. We're talking prefabricated containers that can at least protect people.
Willie Nyeko is with the United Nations World Food Programme. He says another urgent need is to replace ruined sewage systems.
The wastewater has basically been mixing off with the rainwater, and we're quite concerned that, the next phase of this might be a disease outbreak.
Aid groups estimated 1.3 million people were without shelter even before Byron's arrival this week, a number they say surely must have gone up in the wake of the storm. Rafi Bujikani on CBC News, Jerusalem.
Scientists in Manitoba say they've never seen the kind of mass die-offs of geese they're encountering this year. It's part of an active avian influenza outbreak in Canada that has resulted in the deaths of more than 16 million birds over the last 4 years. Karen Pauls has more.
This is my first experience with this scale of mortality.
Last week, federal wildlife biologist Frank Baldwin visited Niverville, Manitoba, to check out dead geese on retention ponds in town. Samples were collected and tested. The cause of death, highly pathogenic avian influenza virus. Thursday, confirming 500 carcasses were collected in that community alone, with many more deaths reported in other locations across the province.
So these birds, when they get sick, they're unable to feed because they're unable to fly. Their proximate cause of death may be from freezing, but ultimately what led to them dying would be this virus.
Hannah Wallace is a virologist at the University of Manitoba's Kindrachuk Lab.
We would think that some of the birds that had been exposed throughout the last 4 years or so would have some protection. So it is a bit weird that we're seeing this many die.
She says the big concern is if the birds are eaten by wild or domestic animals, and then if that virus mutates in a mammal.
It could also then become better at infecting people. That's a distant possibility at this point, but that's always at the back of our minds.
Conspiracy theories are flying on social media about what's causing the deaths, but Niverville Mayor Myron Dick says trust the experts.
So I leave it to the scientists that have more knowledge and deal with this on a regular basis. We put our faith in the professionals that know that more than we do.
Those professionals advising people not to handle the dead birds and keep their pets away. Karen Pauls, CBC News, Winnipeg.
And finally, to one of the biggest accolades in the gaming industry.
And the game of the year is mon ami Clair Obscur, Expédition 33.
Clair Obscur Expedition 33 was the biggest winner at last night's annual Game Awards in Los Angeles. It won an historic 9 awards, including the top prize, Game of the Year, and also Best Score and Music. The game's objective is to destroy a cosmic entity called the Paintress before it erases humanity. It's set in a dark fantasy world inspired by Belle Epoque France. Its creators, a small French studio, Clair Obscur, is their debut game. And that is the latest national and international news from World Report. Remember, for news anytime, go to our website, cbcnews.ca. I'm John Northcott. This is CBC News.
Good morning, Manitoba. You're listening to Information Radio here on CBC Radio 1, 89.3 FM, 990 AM in Winnipeg, everywhere on the CBC Listen app and streaming on CBC Manitoba's YouTube channel. I'm Marjorie Dowhouse in for Marcy Marcusa this morning. Thank you so much for joining us. Coming up on this hour of the show, 'Tis the season of giving. After a year of inflation, we wanted to know whether people are donating more or less than usual this year. So we hit the streets to find out. We're going to hear more coming up. Also, what would you do if your grocery store turned into a club? We'll see this. We are seeing this happening in Winnipeg with hundreds attending this one event. We'll tell you more coming up. But first up here, as you heard in the news, another Conservative MP has crossed the floor to join the Liberals. We'll examine how significant this development is just as MPs go home for the holidays. Stay tuned for that. You're listening to Information Radio here on CBC Radio 1. At 7:11, let's see what's happening in our news. Heather Wells joins us now with a look at your morning headlines. Good morning, Heather.
Good morning. Well, Manitoba scientists say they are recovering an unprecedented number of dead birds. At least 500 bird carcasses have been found near streams over the last month. Frank Baldwin, a biologist at the Canadian Wildlife Service, says the die-off is likely entirely related to avian influenza. We're going to hear more from him coming up. And about 80 people were part of a virtual consultation on the province's plan to set up a supervised consumption site in Winnipeg's inner city. The proposed location is near Siloam Mission on Henry Avenue. Some people raising concerns about nearby homes and apartment buildings, but Erica Hunzinger at the Aboriginal Health and Wellness Centre thinks it could actually make the area safer. We'll hear more from her as well in our next local news at 7:30.
Thank you very much, Heather. Heather Wells with your morning headlines. It's a cold day today, pretty much for the entire province. We do have a cold warning that has been issued, a yellow level 1. Let's ask Abby Adiyemi now where this is. Abby, where's this warning?
Yeah, we're tracking this one in around the Dauphin area. We're talking about Dauphin towards the Riding Mountain area. It feels the extreme wind chill is going to be feeling close to minus 40 and even into the minus 41s this morning. So you need to take it easy out there. For Winnipeg, also the wind chill feels close to minus 35. Current temperatures minus 17, and we're looking at minus 38 in other parts of the province when we talk about the wind chill. Up north, we're still seeing that blizzard-like condition building around the Churchill region. So it's more like a day filled with activities in the weather world today. So you need to take it easy out there.
Thank you very much, Abby. Abby there with a look at your forecast. Corey Funk joins me again in studio with a look at what's happening out there on the commute. Corey.
Yeah, I got a call from Brody with something you really want to keep an eye out for on the eastbound south perimeter just at the LaSalle turnoff. He says there's some hay bales that have fallen off a truck and are blocking the curb lane on the eastbound south perimeter at the LaSalle turnoff. So as you can imagine, that could be pretty dangerous if that sneaks up on you, especially with snow whipping around. So be very careful if you're on the eastbound south perimeter this morning, approaching the LaSalle turnoff in the right lane. There's hay bales blocking that, says Brody. So careful there. As well, got a call from Grant who said southbound La Jamodière at Dawson. There was a collision there that is blocking the entirety of southbound La Jamodière at Dawson. So very, very backed up. I'm going to be keeping an eye on that. If you have any updates on that or anything else you're seeing out there, give me a call on the CBC commuter line. I'll let folks know what you're seeing out there. But just heads up, southbound La Jamodière at Dawson, completely blocked, backed up, says Grant. You can give me a call if you see anything else, 204-788-3093.
7:14 now, mostly cloudy here in Winnipeg, minus 18. It has already been quite a year in federal politics in this country. A new prime minister and very competitive federal election this past spring. Still, 2025 seems to be going out with a bang. Another Conservative member of Parliament has announced he's crossing the floor to join the Liberal benches in the House of Commons. Michael Ma was elected an MP for the first time in April in the riding of Markham-Unionville. In a statement, he wrote he made the decision after listening to his constituents. And with that, you could say it may be shaping up to be a very Merry Christmas for Mark Carney. For more on this unfolding story, we have reached Alex Ballingal. He is a Deputy Ottawa Bureau Chief for the Toronto Star. Good morning. Welcome to the show, Alex.
Hey, good morning. Thanks for having me.
Okay. This happened late yesterday. Fill us in. What happened?
Yeah, it fell like a bit of a bombshell last night. The House had just risen for the winter break, so they're off for 6 weeks, and it was the end of the session. The Liberals were having this big Christmas party. their kind of caucus Christmas party. That's always, I've never gone to it because it's like staff only, but it's a huge, massive party that they have in every December. And just as this is kind of congregating, the news drops that Michael Ma, yet another Conservative MP, is crossing the floor. And I think this news slapped particularly hard because, barely a month ago was the last floor crossing, Nova Scotia MP Chris d'Entremont defecting to the Liberals. And through our reporting at the Star, we managed to establish that there was another Conservative MP who was very close to crossing at that point as well, who ended up not crossing for reasons that are sort of still a bit vague. He remains a Conservative, but he's kind of MIA on the Hill and said he's going to resign his seat in the spring. He almost crossed he met with Carney, he was talking with Liberals in November at the same time as d'Entremont. So flash forward to last night, and sort of the fallout of that whole political situation with d'Entremont and Matt Jenner, the other MP, had kind of calmed down, but it's immediately resurrected with this other floor crossing now. So there's the kind of political impact of what all that means. But the most significant part of it might be that, the Carney Liberals were elected to minority government, but they were just a handful of seats short of a majority. They're now, with these floor crossings, just one seat shy of that majority. So if they can pull over the MP who, almost crossed or somehow get some other seat somewhere else, they have a majority government. And that means, the prospect of a snap election, which a lot of people think could come as early as the spring, could conceivably be put off until, 2029. So it is a significant big deal in the parliamentary math and as well as just sort of the politics of what's going on.
Alex, you have been watching federal political developments all year. There's been a lot going on. How significant is this latest news? Where does it rank?
It's kind of hard to say, how it ranks up to stuff like, Donald Trump talking about annexing Canada and all these, the last year has been kind of wild. The downfall of Justin Trudeau, the rise of Mark Carney. This time last year, basically everybody in Canadian politics that you talk to took it as a given that the Conservatives were about to win a majority government. That didn't happen. In fact, Pierre Poilievre lost his own seat. He had to run again in one of the safest Conservative ridings in Canada, in Alberta, to get back in the House of Commons. We've seen the kind of the political drama of the floor crossings in November. Now this one, I do think it's a significant thing, especially if they can get to that majority threshold. But even if they don't, I think, it's obviously a huge morale boost to the Carney Liberals. And it's obviously a blow to the morale of the Conservatives. And, the last time there was, a month ago with the other floor crossing and the almost floor crossing, that fueled a kind of a round of questioning and stories about, Conservative sources, talking about, is the party going in the right direction, raising questions about Poilievre's leadership style and whether he's the right person to lead them to government at this point. And so that type of attitude and those doubts and that discomfort, to the extent that they exist inside the Conservative Party, and that's always the question. We don't know the exact extent. How is this widespread or not? But this will surely fuel that, or at least fuel questions about that. So, there's no way around it that this is a blow to Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives at this point.
What do you make the timing of all of this, Alex, that it's happening now, just as they've dismissed for the holiday break here?
It is kind of interesting timing, and it kind of lets them go out with a bang into the holiday season, as you said in the intro. Merry Christmas to Mark Carney or whatever. But I think with the Liberals, they've obviously been having conversations with Conservatives. They've obviously been trying to get Conservatives to defect to their side. I think they would obviously love that at any time, but given the parliamentary math, there's obviously a strong motivation for them to pluck away MPs and try and get a majority. But, the timing, I'm not sure. I think they would have done this whenever they could. So I'm not sure to what extent the timing was kind of planned to kind of drop like a bomb last night. but it's certainly, I was about to get on the train to go home, and it definitely blindsided me. But also, I was talking to a conservative source last night, and they were blindsided too. Apparently, that they really, like, this MP Michael Ma, who crossed, was at their Christmas party the night before, and a new MP, but was perceived as sort of like a loyal soldier. So they were also kind of flabbergasted by the situation. It sounded like when I was talking to them last night.
So, Alex, then what does this all mean then for the Conservative Party and for leader Pierre Poilievre?
Well, like I said, I think it will fuel a new round of questions and maybe even speculation about his grip on the party. There's certainly some conservatives that are obviously not, or they harbor doubts, I guess, about what's going on, about his leadership style, about whether they need to change strategies. Potentially, they would, there's some people who don't have faith that he can lead them to power at this point. He's facing a leadership review in January, so next month. To this point, he's been widely expected to win that. And I think the big question is, what does this floor crossing do to those perceptions of his hold on the leadership, and how will it affect the result of that vote? Like, I think most people are looking for, he's expected to win, a majority. He's expected to receive support for his ongoing leadership from a majority of the people at the convention next month. But the question is, by how much? So does he get 75%, 80%, 65%? And what's kind of a threshold of support that gets this monkey off his back, at least temporarily? And what's a level of support that kind of inflames doubts or creates more problems for him? So, it's definitely a big political narrative, and a significant one that we'll be watching closely.
So many developments. Alex, thank you so much for joining us on the show today.
Of course, anytime. Thanks for having me.
Alex Ballingal is the Deputy Ottawa Bureau Chief for the Toronto Star. We have reached him in Ottawa. It is 7:22, and Corey Funk has just raced into the studio here with a development in traffic. Hey, Corey.
Yeah, just got a call. I was talking about that collision at southbound La Jamodier at Dawson. Just got off the phone with someone who says it's now clear on southbound La Jamodier. There is the car pulled off to the side, and that's still blocking part of Dawson, but southbound La Jamodier itself is clear. Also, a reminder, eastbound south perimeter, there are hay bales that have fallen off a truck right by the LaSalle turnoff, and they're very dangerous. People say they kind of catch you off guard as you're coming up. Go slow, stay left to get around that. There's a bunch of hay bales blocking the right lane on the eastbound south perimeter.
Okay, thank you very much, Corey. Take care if you are driving out there. Now at 7:23, let's talk about the season of giving. As grocery prices rise and everything gets more expensive, has that changed the way that Winnipeggers donate during the holidays? Our very own Corey Funk was busy and went to the Forks yesterday to find out.
Marlene Allard. If I'm at the grocery stores and they're asking me to round up the dollars to the next dollar, I don't. But if it's on the street, like for Salvation Army and stuff like that, I will donate.
And do you have a set amount that you will donate in the month, or is it kind of more kind of ad hoc?
Ad hoc. Whatever I have in my pocket or a little change that I like. Right now I have a toonie, a loonie, and a quarter now. I'd put that in there right now, so I don't take out my wallet or anything like that. I just put whatever's in my pocket.
And do you find yourself donating more this time of year?
Yes, I do. Yeah. And we give donations like food and clothes and stuff like that when we have at the malls, and they have toy drives for the children and stuff like that. I tend to do that as well.
Have you found your donation habits have changed over time, especially, let's say since the pandemic when, things have just gotten tighter for everybody?
Yes, I think they have. Yes. And I think it's just also the money thing. It's not the same as it used to be. We used to be guaranteed so much money, but now it's not the same, and as you get older, you don't get as much money as you do when you were younger. So, I find that's why.
Al Letkeman. I give regularly all year round to church and to different organizations and so forth. So, it sort of carries on as usual.
It doesn't pick up around the holidays for you? What does it?
No, I guess if I'm thinking of gift giving, but we have a set amount that we give all year long. So I don't think of it as the end of the year giving. I think we should be given all year, and that's what we do.
I know for a lot of money, a lot of people, things are tight, inflation, all these things like that. Has the amount that you give changed at all?
No, it hasn't. So my wife and I live with the belief that everything we have comes from God, and it's all a gift from Him, and we're simply stewards of that. And so we don't believe anything that we have actually belongs to us anyway. So we continue to give as we can.
My name's Jen Fukumoto. I was talking to my mom earlier. She actually does something with our kids, and we make nuts and bolts and sell jars. And each year, where the money goes is different. So trying to instill generosity in my kids. My mom helps out with that. We also do some giving through our church, and like a local food bank that we run a gym, and so you come for a class, you bring a food donation item, and it goes to the food bank.
And has it changed at all this year? I know people are talking about how money's kind of tight, or is it the same for you this year?
No, same. It's good to be generous.
That was CBC's Corey Funk at the Forks yesterday. Have you changed the way you donate during this holiday season? Give us a call and share your thoughts on our listener line, 204-788-3205. 7:26 now. It is time to check in with Scott Regehr and a look at morning sports. Well, good morning, Scott.
Hey, Marjorie.
Let's start with the NHL, where, the Jets continue to struggle.
Yeah, I mean, it started off well against the Bruins last night, Marjorie. Morgan Barron got the icebreaker, but Boston would score back-to-back goals on the power play, and Winnipeg would go on to lose 6-3. Obviously, a big part of this is the absence of Connor Hellebuck. They've only won twice while he's been out injured. Now, there is some thought he could return as early as tomorrow, although head coach Scott Arniel thinks the lack of wins of late goes deeper than just missing their star goalie.
He's a world-class player that having him back is huge. But at the end of the day, if we're going to give up those opportunities, those are too big of moments that, at key times where we, gave them opportunities. So we have to clean up our game, no matter which goaltender's in there. Obviously, having him back is a big difference, but we got to clean up our game. And we're trending towards that. And again, here's this big step back.
So we'll see whether Connor draws back into the lineup tomorrow. If so, he's not up against the easiest opponent. Alex Ovechkin and the Eastern-leading Washington Capitals are coming to town tomorrow.
Ovi, of course, fantastic on the ice. It's going to be a challenge for sure. Over to the slopes now, Scott, where the queen of downhill skiing is well and truly back.
Looking for World Cup win, number 83, and the first since her comeback at the age of 41. Can Lindsey Vonn do it? Lindsey Vonn has done it!
Lindsey Vonn putting in a stunning run this morning, Marjorie, winning a World Cup downhill event in Switzerland, finishing 1.16 seconds ahead of her closest competitor. What makes it even harder to fathom, Vonn trailed by more than half a second after the first couple of time checks and had a blistering finish. She was going as fast as she has in her prime at the age of 41, and she's doing it with a titanium knee and after 5 years away from the sport. So Vonn clearly now a contender for Olympic gold, and she spoke about the significance of the upcoming games taking place in Italy, specifically Cortina.
I wouldn't even try this if it wasn't in Cortina. If the Olympics were in some random place in an obscure land, that I don't think I would have any interest in doing it. Cortina is the draw. It's a very meaningful place to me. It's where I got my first podium. I broke the Women's World Cup win record. It feels like home.
Yeah, Vonn certainly looked at home, Marjorie, winning today's race. After seeing her time, she punched the air, she shrieked with joy, and then put her hands to her left cheek in a sleeping gesture meant to say night-night to her competition. Like we said off the top, Lindsey Vonn is well and truly back. With all that entails.
Yeah, absolutely incredible. What else is going to be happening here this weekend? You've got your eye watching for another busy weekend in sports here, Scott?
Yeah, well, how about a comeback even Lindsey Vonn would be impressed by?
Old Man River.
44-year-old quarterback Philip Rivers could start for Indianapolis on Sunday, Marjorie. He's returning after a 5-year-long retirement to fill in for the Colts' injured number 1 quarterback Daniel Jones. For perspective, Rivers has 10 children of his own, the eldest of which is older than Indianapolis's other quarterback, Riley Leonard. Rivers, a grandfather, but not the oldest player to suit up in the league history. That was 48-year-old George Blanda, but he was a kicker at that point. Way less terrifying.
Scott, I got to tell you, my husband is a Colts fan. He's counted 17 starting quarterbacks since, I think, Peyton Manning left. Incredible.
Wow.
That's a lot of quarterbacks to go through.
Yep.
Scott, thank you so much. Have a wonderful weekend.
You too.
That is Scott Regier with a look at sports. Stay with us. Your CBC Local News is next.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 7:30, our temperature is down again. We've fallen to minus 18 right now, and we're not finished falling. Temperature will keep taking a dive to minus 21 this afternoon. Bring on the layers. The wind chill is going to feel like minus 34 with a risk of frostbite today. About 80 people were part of a virtual consultation on the province's plan to set up a supervised consumption site in Winnipeg's inner city. The proposed location is 366 Henry Avenue, near Siloam Mission. Some people last night raising concerns about nearby homes and apartment buildings, as well as a mission that provides programming for children. Erica Hunzinger at the Aboriginal Health and Wellness Centre has been contracted to help set up this consumption site. She thinks it could actually make the area safer.
We will be welcoming people no matter what, whether they continue to use. The goal is to build relationships with them. We have community partners that will come to us to be able to support them in what they need. This is a safe place.
A third consultation for businesses in the area is scheduled for Monday night. Manitoba Hydro's plan to keep the power on for the next decade makes only light use of battery storage. A clean energy critic calls that unambitious, but the finance minister says batteries remain untested. CBC's Bartley Kivas reports.
An early version of Hydro's plan to free up almost 1,800 more megawatts of electricity makes light use of a way to store renewable energy. The plan calls for only 5 megawatts of battery storage. Laura Cameron of Manitoba's Climate Action Team says that's nothing compared to Ontario. It's building hundreds of megawatts of battery storage to back up variable power sources like wind farms and solar arrays.
The idea that Manitoba is only considering 5 megawatts in the next 10 years it's astounding.
Cameron says more battery storage could make wind farms planned for Manitoba more reliable. But Adrian Sala, the NDP cabinet minister responsible for hydro, says the province should not charge into batteries. He says battery technology is expensive and untested.
We need to do that cautiously and start small so that we can ensure that we're protecting the affordability side of the equation.
A more detailed version of Hydro's plan to bring more energy online is due early in the new year. Bartley Kivas, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Manitoba scientists say they are recovering an unprecedented number of dead birds. At least 500 bird carcasses have been found near streams over the last month. Canadian geese located in Niverville ponds make up the majority of those dead birds, but clusters of carcasses were also frozen near the Red River north of the perimeter. Frank Baldwin, a biologist at the Canadian Wildlife Service, says the die-off is likely entirely related to avian influenza.
We haven't experienced this in Manitoba yet at this scale, probably because we haven't generally had birds this time of year. Most of the time the birds have migrated by the time the virus is really peaking. That's one possibility. It's also possible that the virus is having a different effect.
The Canadian Food Inspection Agency is conducting more tests to determine what is causing the birds to die. The federal Conservatives have lost another MP, and the Carney Liberals are a step closer to a majority.
So let's give a warm welcome to our newest member of the Liberal Party, Michael Ma. Wow, such a big welcome. Thank you. Thank you.
At the Liberals' holiday party last night in Ottawa, Prime Minister Mark Carney welcoming Toronto area MP Michael Ma. Ma, who represents Markham Unionville, crossed the floor last night, and the Liberals now are one seat away from a majority government.
You are going to have a much better time spending Christmas with us than Christmas with the Cranks. We are all about Santa, not about the Grinch.
Ma's surprise defection comes just a matter of weeks after Nova Scotia MP Chris D'Autremont left the Conservatives for the Liberals. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre says Ma has let down his constituents and says he will have to answer for his decision in the next federal election. You can hear more national and international news coming up on World Report at 8. A man convicted of human smuggling last year is asking a United States court to let him represent himself in his appeal. Harsh Kumar Patel was sentenced to more than 10 years for his role in a human smuggling operation that led to the deaths of a family of 4 from India, parents with 2 small children, in January 2022. Patel says he has no choice but to represent himself in his appeal after raising concerns with what he calls incompetent conduct by his counsel. His lawyer says he would have filed an excellent appeal brief in the case, but respects Patel's choice. Well, make that 3 straight losses for the Winnipeg Jets.
Rebound score! Velarde!
Gabriel Velarde in the second period on TSN, but the Bruins roared back. Boston taking the game 6-3. Jets head coach Scott Arniel says his team needs to perform better under pressure.
There's stress within a game, and you got to be able to handle the stress. And I'm not talking about the mental stress; it's the pressure that builds. And that's just part of, as a pro hockey player, you got to be ready for those moments, be able to handle them better than we are right now.
And the pressure is building. Next up, the Washington Capitals are in town tomorrow. You can find more news and you can read more about that game on our website, cbc.ca/Manitoba.
All right. Thank you very much, Heather.
Thank you.
Heather Wells with your CBC local news. 7:36. You're listening to Information Radio here on CBC Radio 1, 89.3 FM, 990 AM in Winnipeg on the CBC Listen app and streaming on CBC Manitoba's YouTube channel. I'm Marjorie Dowhouse in for Marcy Marcusa this morning. Thank you so much for joining us. Let's take a look now at the forecast. Abby Adeyemi joins me once again. Abby, if you plan on being outside at all, bundle up.
Yeah, bundle up. It's frigid outside, and that wind chill is spreading across board right now. We're talking about wind chills and the values of down south. We're looking at minus 34s, 35s, and up north we're seeing minus 40. Hence, that extreme cold warning we have in effect for the Parkland region, where we're seeing Dauphin and surrounding communities feeling like minus 40 this morning. So expect this biting cold to stay with you all day. You might get a bit of relief in the afternoon, but then the cold returns again, and you will be pretty cold till tomorrow. For Winnipeg right now, would I say we are warm at minus 17, Marjorie? I don't think so. But that light snow tapering off, and the skies would clear this morning, and some gusty northwest winds would accompany whatever we're getting in the system, dropping our temperatures to minus 21. As mentioned, the wind chill feels close to minus 35 in Winnipeg this morning. Similar conditions we're seeing in the Pembina Valley region. Your temperature slides down to minus 22. Currently, you are at minus 19. The wind chill also around minus 35. Brandon, we're seeing drifts there. So the snow you got yesterday and the day before, it's been blown around. Temperatures around minus 25 at this time. It's only going to be, you're going to hold steady around minus 25, 24 for most of the day. But those strong winds will keep things feeling close to minus 38 for folks in that part of the province. In the Parkland region, as mentioned, extreme cold warning in effect. We call that the yellow level warning. It's in effect for the Dauphin and Parkland region. We're looking at wind chills in the valleys of minus 40 into tomorrow. But right now, temperatures around minus 25, but it feels like minus 40 outside. Gimli, you're at minus 20. Slim chance of snow tapering off before you see some clear conditions. Temperature drops to about a minus 21 later. For Flin Flon, the power surrounding communities, we're seeing that temperatures hover between minus 26, minus 27, blowing snow in that part of the province also. You get warm to about minus 25 later, but you should see a mix of sun and clouds in that part of the province. Wind chill close to minus 40. Thompson, minus 24 at this time. Light snow drifting around in that part of the province. We should see this continue on and off for that part of the province. Your high would be around minus 20, and the wind chill sits around minus 35. And then we track it further into Churchill. Temperatures around minus 19, minus 20 at this time. Light snow also falling. We're expecting another 2 to 4 centimeters centimeters of snow added to what you already have, and that should be building towards that blizzard-like condition later in the evening. So we're still keeping an eye on that. Your highs will be reaching around minus 13 later, but the wind chill feels close to minus 29 this morning. Also, a risk of frostbite in place across board. I'd say it's pretty cold this morning, Marjorie.
And your sweater actually says biting weather.
It's a biting weather.
It says bite me, but I think it means biting weather.
Just the gingerbread man, some coffee. It's cold outside. Keep yourself warm.
Yeah, thank you so much, Abby.
Thank you.
Abby there with a look at your forecast. Also want to say good morning to Darren Morash here, who's managing our CBC Manitoba YouTube channel there and streaming our show on there. Corey Funk has popped into the studio, and it turned out to be quite a busy morning.
Yes,
hey, Corey?
Lots going on out there. The one thing I really want to flag, if you're on the eastbound south perimeter this morning, right at the turnoff to LaSalle, that's the 330, there's a bunch of hay bales that have fallen off the back of a large truck, and they are blocking the right-hand lanes. There's a few callers that have called, and Brody and Elizabeth have both called. So very dangerous because they're not really flagged or anything like that. They can just come up on you. Don't expect it. So keep left to get around that. As you can imagine, it's probably causing things to slow down, and not sure when or if those will be cleared. We'd love to get an update on that from folks as they see what's going on around there. That's eastbound south perimeter at the 330. Also just got off the phone with someone who says that if you're on Marion and things are slow, it's because there's a train just after Mission crossing Marion there. So that's making things quite slow on Marion this morning as well. If you do see anything else going on out there on the highways, on the roads, on the bike lanes, you can give me a call on the CBC commuter line. I'll let folks know what you're saying. Love updates as things go along here. So give me a call, even if it's something I've talked about. That number, 204-788-3093.
Thank you very much, Corey.
Thank you.
Corey Funk there with a look at your commute. Well, also still ahead here on the show, restaurants hit hard by break-ins could soon get some relief with Manitoba's new security rebate program. What it means for the industry, we're going to hear more coming up at 7:50. But first, at 7:41, would you head to the grocery store to party on a Friday night? That's exactly what's happening at Filipino grocery store chain Seafood City. Dubbed Late Night Madness, the events have gone viral on the internet. Here in Winnipeg, the pop-ups attract hundreds of young people of all ages, to the grocery store, to a club-like atmosphere, even though not a drop of alcohol is served. CBC's Jim Agapito explores the phenomenon.
Filipinos, we love to party. Anytime we can celebrate with food, music, and family, we're in. So maybe it should be no surprise that Filipino supermarket chain Seafood City has turned grocery shopping into this. A lineup of people have crammed near the carts in the entrance, waiting to get into the store. The DJ is spinning hits as a crowd forms on the dance floor near the checkout area. Multiple food stands are set up, selling Filipino street staples like barbecue skewers and lumpia. People are dancing in between the aisles as the strobe lights illuminate them snacking, swaying to the beats, and taking selfies. Dubbed Late Night Madness, these after-hour pop-up events have been transforming Seafood City grocery stores into late-night party spots.
My name is Patricia Francisco. I am the Director of Digital Marketing and Events for Seafood City. It's just really become more than just a party, honestly, when people talk about the experience that they feel when they're in these celebrations, that it's able to introduce not only food, but even the culture of how we are as a Filipino people.
One hop this time. Right foot, 2 stumps. Left foot, 2 stumps.
Francisco estimates there's been about 40 parties like these across the US and in Canada. But it's not all about community. These pop-ups have resulted in profits and in bringing a new demographic.
So typically, if you think grocery store, it's really the older generation, of course, like the moms or the heads of the households who are taking care of cooking for the family. I think these events definitely pull like the younger crowd from like Gen Zs to even like millennials.
If you look around, a majority of the people at this party fit that age group. And there might be a reason for that.
For the typical Gen Z, they want something that's going to enrich their lives. They want an experience over, just a product.
Divya Ramachandran is a professor in the marketing department at the University of Manitoba. She says Seafood City is leveraging a growing trend of soft clubbing with the Late Night Madness pop-ups that attract a younger demographic with experiential events. Soft clubbing events have all the things a nightclub would, but without alcohol. And to millennials and Gen Zs, that matters.
They place huge importance on their health, on their physical and mental health. And given the fact that there's been sufficient anecdotal as well as scientific evidence linking, alcohol consumption to not so great mental health outcomes, I feel like there is a layer of that understanding. You have your whole clubbing experience. You still feel like you're drinking, tasty mocktails or non-alcoholic beverages, but you can still wake up the next day and do that run that you are so used to doing every other weekend.
Francisco says she's seen the soft clubbing appeal for the younger generations at the events.
So yeah, it's kind of interesting how times are changing too. Like you would only think that this would happen like at a club where everything's dark and like people don't really see your dance moves, but here sometimes it's like daylight or like really bright and you're literally dancing in the middle of a circle,
Partiers at this pop-up said no drinking was a draw.
My name is Jarrell Cleodoro. I am 18. Alcohol nullifies, and when you're trying to interact, it's just like really hard. So coming here to like a non-alcohol party, it's just like really refreshing to me and to all of like my friends, because like we just enjoy partying and like celebrating.
My name is Brittany Kelleff. I don't really drink, so I kind of like the vibes. Nice to see everyone just having fun without having a drink.
Hi, my name is Sean Relev.
And you've been coming here how many times so far?
Well, this is my third, what was that? 2, 4, there'll be my 5th one technically. Well, for me, I don't really drink that much unless it's special occasions, but I mostly like music. I really love music.
My name's Aileen Hagemeister.
Yeah. My name is Brendan Walker. Me and her, we do not drink or do any of that sort of stuff. And we really like free events and that.
For others, it was being near their Filipino community that drew them in.
I feel like kind of like welcomed here because it's my own like ethnicity, it's my own family.
That comfort level is important for Gen Zs and millennials looking to socialize, according to Ramachandran. And it doesn't necessarily need to come from sharing an ethnicity, although that helps, she says. For younger generations, interacting on social media platforms or communicating through text can create inhibitions about in-person hangouts, she says. But events that focus on a niche thing can help eliminate that anxiety, giving them room to have a new experience and find something in common.
Sense of, okay, I'm safe, but I also have this opportunity to explore a little something new and try being social, IRL, in real life.
The last Late Night Madness pop-up is happening in Winnipeg, December 12th and 13th. Jim Agapito, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Looks like so much fun. Thanks to Jim for that piece. By the way, as Jim mentioned, the next Seafood City Late Night Madness event takes place this weekend. 7:48, and we actually have a traffic update for you. We got a call on the commuter line. Those hay bales that Corey mentioned were blocking the perimeter, the eastbound-south perimeter at the LaSalle turnoff have since been cleared. Again, those hay bales that were blocking the eastbound-south perimeter at the LaSalle turnoff have been cleared. Cold start to the day here in Winnipeg. Mostly cloudy right now, -19, northwest wind at 22. With the wind chill feels like -30, our temperature falling to -21 later today. The province of Manitoba has launched a new $10 million business security rebate program. This is to help businesses recover from property damage and invest in better security. Eligible businesses can apply for up to $2,500 to cover the cost of broken doors and windows and new lighting and security cameras. The fund is retroactive to August 2024. Justice Minister Matt Wiebe said the hope is that this program will address security needs of businesses.
This rebate will help make things like glass break sensors, reinforced doors, impact-resistant glass, and motion sensors more affordable for small businesses, and allow them, those who have been the victims of crime, to repair the damage that they've seen to their property. Businesses with multiple locations can apply once for each location that they operate, with a maximum of $2,500 per location. We've allocated $10 million for this program, and we've tailored it specifically to the needs of business owners.
That was Justice Minister Matt Wiebe talking about the province's plan to launch a $10 million business security rebate. Now, some restaurants in Winnipeg are questioning the eligibility of this rebate. CBC's Bryce Hoy spoke to Biban Recchi, owner of Coffee Culture on Pembina Highway, who says her restaurant had 2 break-ins back in 2023.
We had cameras, we had all the security measures, but nothing could be done, and it could not be. And the next week, it was a bigger theft because they came and they took our safe deposit, which was like maybe around 20 kgs. So for the same person to come again, shows how bold they've become.
How do you feel about the fact that, they've retroactively put the application window for this back to August 2024? Your break-ins happened in 2023, so you kind of just miss the cut. You can't apply for that rebate. How does that make you feel?
Oh, it doesn't make me feel good at all. It doesn't. And I also think about all the other businesses, because a lot of businesses in Fort Richmond got broken in that week, in those 10 days. So clearly not helping us at all.
That was Biban Recchi from Coffee Culture Rock talking to CBC's Bryce Hoy. She says because the rebate eligibility window goes back to August 2024, she won't be able to apply for this rebate. Joining us now to talk more about what this all means for the broader sector of the industry is Chris Barnier, Vice President Central for Restaurants Canada. Good morning. Welcome to the show, Chris.
Good morning.
You were at yesterday's announcement by the province. Why is the security rebate program significant for restaurant owners?
When we have surveyed our members over the past year, 45% say that they have been directly impacted by crime in the last year. We've got 72% of our members saying that crime in the areas where they do business is going up, and they're concerned about it. When you're dealing with crime, it makes people not want to go to restaurants. It makes people not want to work in restaurants. And the damage that can be caused by crime, whether it's broken glass, stolen equipment, people running out on bills, all those things are incredibly expensive. So to get a program that is going to give $2,500 per location to small business owners who are really struggling, that is significant, and we are very thankful for the program.
The province mentioned that this fund is retroactive to August 2024. We heard from Biban Recchi, who was the owner there of Coffee Culture, that it's not going to help her out. What do you say about her and maybe other business owners who might not be eligible to get in on this rebate?
Well, I think it's unfortunate if you have an individual business owner who has a circumstance where they might not be able to get support. But what I will say overall is the response from our members has been really, really positive to this. This is the only comparable program that we're aware of is one out in BC, and it was about $3,000 per business. But if you had multiple locations, you couldn't apply for multiple locations. This one is to have it be retroactive, to have it be upwards of 75 full-time equivalent workers in each business location, and looking at a number of the things that are eligible, it really is a great program, and it is the best that we see in Canada, and we hope that other provinces replicate it.
Chris, how widespread is vandalism, break-ins, property damage among restaurants here in Canada?
Well, when we've surveyed our members, 26% would say that they've had altercations involving their staff and patrons in their restaurants. 6% have said arson. 61% have dealt with vandalism. 45% burglary. 57% theft. And And it goes on and on. And drug-related incidents, harassment of staff and patrons, it goes on, and it's an unfortunate everyday occurrence in restaurants across Canada. And when we talk to our members out in Manitoba, they're dealing with some of the worst stories and things that you hear. We've heard stories, and now this is one from Ontario, but where we had a restaurant employee walked up to someone who had wandered into a closed section of the restaurant and asked the person to move, and that staff person was assaulted with a cell phone, and the owner of the restaurant took the employee to the hospital, and in the 7 hours that they waited to get care, that person who committed the assault had been arrested and then released and was back at the restaurant 3 hours later. So it's stories like that you hear all too often, and where we have a program and a government that has heard us, that sat down with us and actually made sure that the program was going to be responsive so that restaurant locations could get it. That's a big deal for us, and we are very thankful to the government for what they announced yesterday.
Chris, any idea why we might be hearing or seeing more of these issues for businesses, for restaurants these days?
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with mental health and addiction issues, and a lot of it has to do with the same people who are coming back and causing problems over and over again. So, we don't pretend to be experts on bail reform or criminology, but what we do know is that a lot of these incidents is the same people over and over again, and where we can get help to deal with that recidivism side, that's not an easy quick fix. And certainly not something that is going to be solved by a crime grant program. But while we're still dealing with those issues, to have money that's going to help restaurant owners and other business owners make their businesses a little more secure, deal with the expensive cost of damages, and to help them take action to protect their employees and to protect their patrons, that's a big deal for us, and one that we're really, really happy about and thankful for.
We have about 30 seconds left here, Chris, but finally I want to ask you, what are some longer term strategies do you think that businesses need here to protect themselves?
Well, there's different things that we're looking at, whether it is training for staff on dealing with incidents, and certainly there are other things that we're pursuing in that area. We welcome any investment in policing and making sure, because that is as tough a job as you're going to get in policing, and we are very supportive of anything that helps them. Certainly, we are really interested in seeing the things the governments are doing around bail reform and dealing with recidivism, and certainly all, as the Premier and others talk about, the root causes of crime. So anything that tackles mental health and addiction and that helps people who are struggling and who are committing crimes to fuel, addictions or whatever it might be, all those things are welcome.
Chris, I really do appreciate you joining us this morning here on the show. Thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.
Chris Barnier is Vice President Central for Restaurants Canada. The province of Manitoba has launched a new $10 million business security rebate program. Let's go now to Heather Wells and look at your morning headlines. Good morning, Heather.
Good morning. Well, Manitoba scientists say they're recovering an unprecedented number of dead birds. At least 500 bird carcasses have been found near streams over the past month. Frank Baldwin, a biologist at the Canadian Wildlife Service, says the die-off is likely entirely related to avian influenza. Manitoba Hydro's plan to keep the power on for the next decade only makes light use of battery storage. A clean energy critic calls that unambitious. Laura Cameron at Manitoba's Climate Action Team says the province is missing an opportunity. We'll hear more in our next local news coming up at 8:30.
Thank you very much, Heather. Traffic note to pass along. Tim called the commuter line northbound Osborne at Oakwood. An illegally parked car is causing big backups. Keep left there. Right now in Winnipeg, it is mostly cloudy, -19, wind northwest at 22, wind chill. Feels like -30 out there. Well, still ahead here on the show as temperatures drop and the city cracks down on encampments. More people are seeking shelter wherever they can. Some inside lobbies, condo buildings, even bank entrances. Coming up, we hear from Marion Willis about the surge in complaints. You're listening to Information Radio here on CBC Radio 1, 89.3 FM, 990 AM in Winnipeg, everywhere on the CBC Listen app. I'm Marjorie Dowhouse in for Marcy Marcusa this morning. Thank you so much for joining us. Stay with us. World Report is next.
on cue. As a kid, the director Ryan Johnson grew up attending youth group at his church, and he says that experience really taught him how to tell a story. He'll be here to tell you about his latest story in the Knives Out franchise, how faith inspired the latest one, and why he disguises clues as jokes.
A perfectly impossible crime.
Q with Tom Power. This morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland. And on CBC Listen, or wherever you get your podcasts. The CBC News is next. Coming up in half an hour, it's The Current with Matt Galloway.
The Epstein files have caused a political firestorm in the United States, but at the center of that story are the women who are the survivors of his abuse. We will hear from Jess Michaels and Liz Stein about their demands for accountability coming up on The Current.
This is World Report. Good morning, I'm John Northcott. The federal Liberals are one seat closer to having a majority in Parliament. Very close. Another Conservative MP has crossed the floor. Toronto area MP Michael Maw made the surprise announcement last night, right after the House of Commons wrapped for the holidays. Marina von Stackelberg has the details.
So let's give a warm welcome to our newest member of the Liberal Party, Michael Maw.
Prime Minister Mark Carney at the Liberals' holiday party, celebrating his newest MP, who just hours before was a Conservative.
Wow, such a big welcome. Thank you. Thank you.
Gaining Conservative Michael Maw puts Carney only one seat shy of a majority government.
You are going to have a much better time spending Christmas with us than Christmas with the Cranks.
Maw was just elected this spring as the MP for Markham-Unionville. The suburban Toronto area riding is a competitive seat for both the Liberals and Conservatives. In a statement, Maw says he decided to join the Liberals after speaking to his constituents and reflecting on the direction of the country. Maw says he entered public service to help people and focus on solutions, not division. He is now the third MP to quit the Conservative Party in less than 6 weeks.
The year's not over. Year's not over. That's all I'm saying.
On social media, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre wrote, "The people Maw let down the most are the ones who elected him, and he will have to answer to them." Conservatives point to video showing Maw on the dance floor just the night before at their Christmas party. Marina von Stackelberg, CBC News, Ottawa.
Rising floodwaters have led to new evacuation orders for properties around Abbotsford, BC. These are in addition to the nearly 460 properties already under similar orders and more than 1,000 others on evacuation alert. An atmospheric river has deluged the Fraser Valley. Officials say the floodwaters are expected to peak today. Yasmin Renea reports.
I've been gauging that white car there to see how high it's been coming up.
In Abbotsford, BC, close to the Canada-U.S. border, John Will watches floodwaters completely cover a vehicle's tires and license plate. His home is under evacuation order, along with dozens of others in the area.
When it starts coming in my driveway, then I'll think about time to go.
After days of relentless rain, floodwaters from the Nooksack River in Washington state continue to rise in the Fraser Valley, shutting down a major route into Abbotsford last night.
We will do whatever it takes to protect people and communities, because in moments like these, no one stands alone.
BC Emergency Management Minister Kelly Green says staff are providing supports around the clock.
We continue to deploy flood assets and equipment like sandbags, tiger dams, and these will protect property and livestock.
Residents are being urged to stay out of evacuation areas and away from all flooded roads. The province says the coming days may be difficult as another atmospheric river is expected to hit the region Sunday and Monday. Yasmin Ghanea, CBC News, Abbotsford, British Columbia.
Meanwhile, south of the border, Washington state is taking the brunt of the same weather system.
We're going to be lowering our rescue somewhere, probably picking up 2 survivors, going to the LZ to drop them off, and then come back for the next 2.
A U.S. Coast Guard helicopter positions to airlift 2 people stranded in a submerged house in the town of Sumas, Washington. Water levels there have reached higher than 4.5 meters as rivers across the western part of the state are bursting their banks. 100,000 people are facing evacuation orders. Washington's Governor Bob Ferguson has declared a statewide emergency. The UN says more than 800,000 people in Gaza are at risk because of flooding after a powerful storm battered the beleaguered territory. Storm Byron has collapsed buildings and deluged the camp of people displaced by the Israel-Hamas war. 3 more people died overnight, reportedly bringing the total number of deaths from the severe weather to 12. Rafi Boudjikanian has more.
A prayer chant in the west of Gaza City to mourn the loss of Khader and Khalil Hanoune. Their cousin Marwan tells a freelance videographer working for CBC News they died when a wall collapsed on their tents early this morning. Also in Gaza City, 9-year-old Hadil Hamdan died due to the cold, says the child's father, Abdullah. For months now, aid organizations have warned that tents for the Palestinians displaced by the Gaza conflict are inadequate for winter.
We need shelter and reliable shelter commodities, right? So we're talking proper tents. We're talking prefabricated containers that can at least protect people.
Willie Nyeko is with the United Nations World Food Programme. He says another urgent need is to replace ruined sewage systems.
The wastewater has basically been mixing off with the rainwater, and we're quite concerned that, the next phase of this might be a disease outbreak.
Aid groups estimated 1.3 million people were without shelter even before Byron's arrival this week, a number they say surely must have gone up in the wake of the storm. Rafi Boudjikanian, CBC News, Jerusalem.
Scientists in Manitoba say they've never seen the kind of mass die-offs of geese they're encountering this year. It's part of an active avian influenza outbreak in Canada that has resulted in the deaths of more than 16 million birds over the last 4 years. Karen Pauls has more.
This is my first experience with this scale of mortality.
Last week, federal wildlife biologist Frank Baldwin visited Niverville, Manitoba, to check out dead geese on retention ponds in town. Samples were collected and tested. The cause of death, highly pathogenic avian influenza virus. Thursday, confirming 500 carcasses were collected in that community alone, with many more deaths reported in other locations across the province.
So these birds, when they get sick, they're unable to feed because they're unable to fly. Their proximate cause of death may be from freezing, but ultimately what led to them dying would be this virus.
Hannah Wallace is a virologist at the University of Manitoba's Kindrachuk Lab.
We would think that some of the birds that had been exposed throughout the last 4 years or so would have some protection. So it is a bit weird that we're seeing this many die.
She says the big concern is if the birds are eaten by wild or domestic animals, and then if that virus mutates in a mammal.
It could also then become better at infecting people. That's a distant possibility at this point, but that's always at the back of our minds.
Conspiracy theories are flying on social media about what's causing the deaths, but Niverville Mayor Myron Dick says trust the experts.
So I leave it to the scientists that have more knowledge and deal with this on a regular basis. We put our faith in the professionals that know that more than we do.
Those professionals advising people not to handle the dead birds and keep their pets away. Karen Pauls, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Our colleagues at Radio Canada are reporting that Federal Transport Minister Stephen McKinnon is about to announce that the first segment of the high-speed rail line will be built between Montreal and Ottawa. A stop in Laval will be part of this initial phase of development. The first sod, scheduled to be turned in 2029, the high-speed rail line is planned to eventually connect Quebec City to Toronto. A little-known case of aggravated assault in Nova Scotia is now before the Supreme Court of Canada. It presents a challenging scenario for judges. Both the victim and the offender are Indigenous, and there are separate pieces of legislation that suggest each person needs special consideration when it comes to sentencing. Kayla Hounsell explains.
In June 2021, Harry Cope assaulted his on-again, off-again partner in Halifax. Both are Mi'kmaq. Cope pleaded guilty and was sentenced to 5 years in prison. So the case is not about guilt or innocence. Cope appealed his sentence, saying the judge hadn't properly considered the landmark Gladue principles. This area of law was intended to address over-incarceration of Indigenous people by requiring courts to consider systemic factors such as discrimination when sentencing. Jonathan Rudin is representing Cope.
We will never
jail our way to reconciliation.
The Nova Scotia Court of Appeal did reduce Cope's original sentence, but then Crown Attorney Erica Kurosawa appealed the case to the Supreme Court of Canada, saying reducing the sentence didn't appropriately consider other legislation that says courts must prioritize sentences that deter others from perpetrating violence against Indigenous women.
Parliament intended for more serious sentences.
It's not clear when the Supreme Court will decide who's right, but its decision will provide some direction for all future cases where both the offender and the victim are Indigenous. Kayla Hounsell, CBC News, Halifax.
And that is the latest national and international news from World Report. I'm John Northcott. This is CBC News.
Good morning, Manitoba. You're listening to Information Radio here on CBC Radio 1, 89.3 FM, 990 AM in Winnipeg, everywhere on the CBC Listen app, and streaming on CBC Manitoba's YouTube channel. I'm Marjorie Dowhouse in for Marcy Marcusa this morning. Thank you so much for joining us. Coming up on this segment of the show, well, visiting Santa at the mall. A tradition for some Manitobans, but harder for others. Coming up around 8:20, we're going to hear about Santa's trip up north. Santa tells us how he's reaching kids in northern Manitoba. But first up here, as temperatures drop and the city cracks down on encampments, more people are seeking shelter wherever they can. Some inside lobbies, condo buildings, even bank entrances. Coming up, we hear from Marion Willis about the surge in complaints. You're listening to Information Radio here on CBC Radio 1, 89.3 FM, 990 AM in Winnipeg and everywhere on the CBC Listen app. At 8:11 with your morning headlines. Joining us now is Heather Wells. Good morning, Heather.
Good morning. Well, about 80 people were part of a virtual consultation last night on the province's plan to set up a supervised consumption site in Winnipeg's inner city. The proposed location on Henry Avenue is near Siloam Mission. Some people raised concerns about nearby homes and apartment buildings. Erica Hunzinger at the Aboriginal Health and Wellness Centre thinks it could actually make the area safer by building relationships in a welcoming space. And the number of dead birds recovered in Manitoba this fall is growing by the hundreds. Since mid-November, scores of geese carcasses have been found in Niverville. The Canadian Wildlife Service says the number has now jumped to about 500. We're going to hear expert opinion coming up in our next local news at 8:30.
Thank you very much, Heather.
Thank you.
Let's say good morning to our crew here on Information Radio. Abby Adiyemi is our tech, also keeping an eye on that forecast. Darren Morash is in charge of our YouTube stream on CBC Manitoba's YouTube channel, and Corey Funk, our show director, also taking your calls about what you're seeing out there on your commute. So, Abby, let's start off here with the weather. It is a cold one today, isn't it?
Definitely. We are locked in that deep winter wind chill. I think that's the summer with those strong northwest winds really driving the chill values to truly dangerous levels across the province. This is like going across board. We're seeing minus 19 at the Forks, minus 21 at the airport. Wind chill in the city close to like minus 34 this morning. And southern regions, you're seeing the wind chill between minus 35 and 38. And then that yellow extreme cold warning in effect for the Parkland region. We're talking about highs would be around minus 22. Then the wind chill feels like minus 40 this morning. So you need to take care out there because there's like frostbite in minutes across board. And even if you track conditions up north, there's no difference. They're close to minus 40 already this morning.
Okay, so be safe out there and stay warm. Thank you very much, Abby. Let's turn now to Corey Funk with a look at what's happening out there in your commute. It's actually been a busy morning, Corey.
It has been a busy morning. If you were listening earlier, you're still wondering, those hay bales that were blocking the eastbound south perimeter are now clear. Shouldn't be an issue there, but might still be some residual backups, of course. I got a call from Tim, though. Northbound Osborne at Oakwood, there's an illegally parked car blocking the curb lane that's causing some big backups, so look out for that. It's northbound Osborne at Oakwood. As well, might still be a problem. Let's hope it's cleared. But I heard earlier about a train on Marion around Mission. So if it's slow on Marion right now, might be because there was a train on Mission. Might still be there, might not, crossing Marion. So heads up there. If you do see anything else going on the highways, on the roads, bike lanes, sidewalks, you can give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number, 204-788-3093.
8:14 now. As temperatures drop and the city cracks down on encampments with its new bylaw, more people are seeking shelter wherever they can. Inside lobbies, condo buildings, even bank entrances. Avram Shirak is a spokesperson for the Manitoba Professional Property Managers Association and told us that landlords are increasingly worried about people seeking refuge inside condo buildings, sleeping or spending time in lobbies and common areas during the winter months.
We do discuss this issue regularly, the issue of indigents coming into buildings. Occasionally they become really problematic. Often they just want to sleep. But some of them, especially if they're on substances, can be difficult to deal with, and it can be hard to get the police there if they're being difficult to deal with. So yes, we do discuss it. We've come up with a variety of ways to deal with it. My company, as an example, the one I work for, we lock the exterior door of the foyer later in the evening. So overnight, if you're getting a pizza delivery at 2 a.m, as an example, the pizza guy's going to have to phone you and you're going to come down and get it because the intercom is not accessible late at night.
Marion Willis from St. Boniface StreetLink says she has been also receiving numerous complaints about this and joins me now via Zoom. Good morning. Welcome to the show, Marion.
Good morning.
What kind of complaints are you hearing?
We've had a number of calls to our outreach line from credit unions and banks asking if we can come and remove people from the ATM vestibules. We've had we had a call the other day from Goulet Manor, so from different buildings over here, complaining that there are people hanging out in the hallways and wondering if we can come and help move people along. So, unfortunately, this is what can be expected when the city implements a ban, but actually doesn't have a plan to manage what the impacts are going to be to those most affected, which will be those that are living unsheltered.
Marion, so you said that this is a glimpse of what's to come. How do you know that?
Well, we do know that. I mean, we've been doing this for 10 years. Anybody who does outreach knows that, in fact, we should all understand that, the people who are struggling with homelessness are human beings like the rest of us. They have the same basic needs as the rest of us. They all seek shelter. They all seek safety and warmth and food and clothing and all of those things. While I do not support encampment living, I don't think it's good for anybody. I certainly don't support the ban in its current form either, because it's basically taking people who are already living in the margins of life and pushing them even further into the margins. So without their encampments, that was their shelter and where they kept their personal possessions. Once that is taken away, basically you have people out there now, and it's survival of the fittest, and those folks will do whatever they have to do to survive.
Now, Marion, the encampment bylaws have been in place for about a month now. What are you hearing from the people that you directly help about the impact that this is having on them?
Well, the impact's huge. I mean, fortunately, we proactively planned for this. And so we've housed upwards of 30 people since mid-November. We've been working to secure housing through the private sector, which is where you will find housing to house people. But it is really impactful. I mean, people's encampments come down. They don't have the ability to pack up their possessions and tote them along with them somewhere. They basically lose everything that is important to them. What appears to be garbage to somebody else is often, those are possessions that are valued by the person that they belong to. So, I mean, it's horrible. And the other thing I'll say about this, is that we've had spring, we've had summer, we've had fall, to address the challenges with encampments. But once again, here we are, the snow is falling, the temperature's dropping. It's Christmas in a few weeks, and I have to wonder where the mercy is in all of this.
Do you think
during this Christian holiday? I mean, yeah, and I think the city and others probably should be concerned about liabilities here. because this encampment ban is actually pushing people into a state of really feeling quite desperate.
Are those people that are getting pushed out, Marion, are they coming to you? Are they coming to St. Boniface Street Links?
They are. I think the greatest humanity I've seen in all of this has been from the community support unit of Winnipeg Police Service that actually has been picking up people, driving them over to 604 St. Mary's, pleading with us to help get these folks housed. And we have housed every person that they brought to us. People are walking over. They're coming over to 604 St. Mary's any way they can get there, because word on the street is that if you want to get housed, you're going to have to go to St. Boniface Street Links on St. Mary's Road.
I want to ask you this too. Do you think we're only at the start here of winter? We've got January, February to still go. Is our city are there? The shelter system, is it set up to handle the amount of people that could possibly be coming in here, even though we're just at the start of winter?
Well, no. I mean, again, the city is executing a ban with no plan in place to support that ban. And so a plan would have meant, that Your Way Home would have assigned so many housing units. We work with the private sector. We would have assigned housing units, and Homelessness Winnipeg. They have their strategy. A plan would have seen a shared governance model that brought all of us together to identify resources that would move people from encampments into housing. We haven't done that. We've just taken away everybody's home. And for all intents and purposes, those are people's homes, whether we like it or not. I expect to see that we haven't improved public safety issues by doing this. We've enhanced public safety issues. I think that the worst is yet to come. And no, we haven't planned.
So what,
this at all.
in your opinion, Marion, what needs to happen now to give the support that's needed this winter?
Well, I think that every organization should be out there and should be working with every single person in an encampment to link them to income supports and find housing. I think for now, I know that, the Your Way Home plan, looks for deeply affordable housing, is waiting for new builds to come online. You know what? We need to use what exists. And there is housing in the private sector. The province and the city both need to provide some incentives to bring a greater response from the private sector, because the private sector does have housing and they will house, if there's some support, to address some of the challenges of housing high-risk populations. I can tell you that we currently have vacancies within our housing network. So there's housing out there. The other piece of this, and I'm going to say this, is that yesterday we were brought a senior woman who's been living in her car for a whole month. She's not a senior woman who was born into poverty. Circumstances caused her to lose her housing. She's a senior in her car for a whole month. She was brought to us. She was also an Indigenous woman. She was brought to us because she didn't meet anybody's criteria to be housed within current programs. She hadn't been homeless for 6 of the last 12 months. There's so much that needs to change here. We have a crisis. We're a city that is a part of a national crisis. The drug use epidemic, the housing crisis, mental health, all the justice issues are all interrelated. Nationally, we need a strategy to address this. The provinces cannot do this on their own, but we should all feel obligated to be out there and to be connecting with every single person that is living unsheltered, do the work to link them to income supports, and do the work to find them housing, because there is a way to house people. It might not be subsidized housing, might not be deeply affordable housing, but it's housing, and it's a whole lot safer for everybody. And much more humane than leaving people outside. These are not animals, these are human beings. As we enter this Christmas season, I ask, every level of government, where's the charity in the season? Where's the mercy?
Marion, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us on the show today.
Thank you.
Marion Willis from Street Boniface Street Links.
On This is Manitoba, we celebrate who we are, and we lean into the challenges here that can make this place even better. I'm Marcy Marcusa, host of This is Manitoba. On the podcast, we tackle one topic in a new episode every Friday. It's always about us, the news, and the people here. Get into some local listening. Find and follow This is Manitoba wherever you get your podcasts.
Here comes Santa Claus, right down Santa Claus Lane. Vixen and Blixen and all his reindeers pulling on the reins. Bells are ringing.
Oh, here comes Santa Claus to northern Manitoba. That's right. He's going to find out who's naughty and who's nice. So far, he's visited 16 First Nations communities this week, many of them in remote communities. And Manitoba Kiwautanaway Ogamakanak, MKO, is helping get him around to deliver toys and treats. To fill us in, Santa joins us now from Thompson. Hi, Santa.
Ho, 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 ho. Good morning, Marjorie.
Good morning. 16 First Nations communities in 1 week so far. You sound very busy, Santa. How is it going so far?
It has been fabulous. I can't tell you how much of a pleasure it is to meet all of the little boys and girls here in northern Manitoba. And I've even had a chance to visit a few of the personal care homes in those remote communities.
Oh, that's so lovely. How many First Nations do you plan to visit, Santa?
We are working to try and get to 25.
Oh, wow. So you have 7 more to go. Now, you visit all houses on Christmas Eve. Why are you visiting Manitoba's First Nations communities now?
Well, a lot of it, Marjorie, I have cousins that help out at the malls and places like that in Winnipeg. And little boys and girls get a chance to have their photo taken with Santa. And we don't have that opportunity in northern remote communities. It is very hard for these children to get out and see Santa. So MKO Grand Chief Satie said, would I join him to visit his children? And here we are.
And what has it meant to the children to get a visit from Santa?
It's been a very special time. They run and greet you with hugs and kisses and stories and letters. I think it does more for Santa than it does for the children.
Oh, it's been a really tough year for a lot of children up north, given what's happened with the wildfires. What does it mean to be able to give this to them after what's been a very challenging year?
I think it's an opportunity for them to return to life as they normally would have, right after a summer of being uprooted.
Now, Special Elf filled me in and said that you made a special visit to Northlands, Denesalin First Nation. Tell me more about that experience. What was that like?
It's as close as we get to Santa being home.
And it must have felt good to be close to home for you.
It really did. You see some of the reindeer cousins roaming around, and the children are excited. They were running to meet me as I was stepping off the plane.
Santa, I understand there was a slight delay yesterday. What happened?
Unfortunately, the reindeer themselves are busy resting up and getting ready for the big night. So my friends from Perimeter Airlines, Keewatin Air, and Custom Helicopters have been helping to move me around. And yesterday had very heavy snow, and Rudolph in a helicopter is not the same as Rudolph pulling a sleigh. So we had to pull the plug on yesterday.
Santa, I know you're very busy, but where are you headed off to next?
We're actually, as soon as I'm done here, Marjorie, I'm heading for the airport, and we'll be in the air on the way to Moose Lake, and then Easterville and Grand Rapids today.
Well, Santa, thank you so much for taking the time out of your very busy schedule to join us here on the show today. And happy holidays to you.
Merry Christmas, and thanks for staying on the good little girls list, Marjorie.
Bye, Santa.
Bye-bye.
That was Santa Claus talking to us from northern Manitoba. He's visiting First Nations communities around the region. As you heard, there's been a bit of a change in schedule. Visit Manitoba Kiwatinawi Ogamakinaak's Facebook page to see where Santa is headed to next. Julie is joining me now. Julie Buckingham is actually hosting Radio Noon, the show that I usually host, and has more on what's coming up during the call and say, hey, Julie.
Well, you have a little one, and as those little ones get older, they still say the darndest things. And as we know, the words of the year are starting to come out. Rage bait is one of them. 6-7, what the heck does that mean? On Radio Noon, we're going to talk about those words, but also some of the words you used when you were saying the darndest things.
We'll have to tune in.
Please do.
Yeah, and give us a call.
That would be rad.
Share your thoughts on what you think the word of the year should be. Thank you very much,
You're welcome.
Julie. Stay with us. Your CBC Local News is next.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg at 8:30. You'll want to throw on all the layers. Right now, minus 19 downtown, but minus 20 out at the airport. Temperatures only headed down throughout the day to minus 21. It'll feel much colder because of that strong northwest wind and blowing snow. A risk of frostbite in Winnipeg today. A panel of experts had their work cut out last night, quelling people's fears about safety at a proposed supervised consumption site in Winnipeg's inner city. The province wants to put that site at 366 Henry Avenue. Deputy Police Chief Scott Halley says safety is the utmost concern for Winnipeg Police, but they will also have help from other community groups.
The intent is for all of us working together, communicating well together to ensure that any safety issues that are occurring within the area are addressed by any number of partners right across that spectrum.
A third consultation for businesses in the area is scheduled for Monday night. Manitoba Hydro's plan to keep the power on for the next decade only makes light use of a way to store renewable energy. The plan calls for Hydro to free up almost 1,800 more megawatts of electricity, but only relies on 5 megawatts of battery storage to back up new wind farms planned for the province. Laura Cameron at Manitoba's Climate Action Team says the province is missing an opportunity.
In Ontario, they're scaling up to thousands of megawatts of battery energy storage in the next 3 years by 2028. And so the idea that Manitoba, is only considering 5 megawatts in the next 10 years it's astounding.
Adrian Sala, the NDP cabinet minister responsible for Manitoba Hydro, says the province should not charge into batteries. He says battery technology is expensive and untested. Mark Carney's Liberals are one member closer to a majority government. Toronto area MP Michael Ma is defecting from the Conservatives just in time for the Liberals' Christmas party.
So let's give a warm welcome to our newest member of the Liberal Party, Michael Ma.
Wow, such a big welcome. Thank you. Thank you.
Ma's arrival comes weeks after Nova Scotia MP Chris D'Autremont crossed the floor and Alberta's Matt Genereux announced his resignation. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre says Ma has let down his constituents, adding he will eventually have to answer to them. This switch was unexpected, with Ma at the Conservative holiday party just last night, or on Wednesday rather, and Ma says apart from Poilievre, he told no one, but he did consult with people in his riding. Manitoba scientists say they are recovering an unprecedented number of dead birds. At least 500 bird carcasses have been found near streams over the last month. Canadian geese located in Niverville ponds make up the majority of the dead birds, but clusters of carcasses were also frozen near the Red River north of the Perimeter Highway. Frank Baldwin, a biologist at the Canadian Wildlife Service, says the die-off is likely entirely related to avian influenza.
We haven't experienced this in Manitoba yet at this scale, probably because we haven't generally had birds this time of year. Most of the time the birds have migrated by the time the virus is really peaking. That's one possibility. It's also possible that the virus is having a different effect.
The Canadian Food Inspection Agency is conducting more tests to determine what is causing the birds to die off. A man convicted of human smuggling last year is asking a United States court to let him represent himself in his appeal. Harsh Kumar Patel was sentenced to more than 10 years for his role in a human smuggling operation that led to the deaths of a family of 4 from India in January 2022. Patel says he has no choice but to represent himself in his appeal after raising concerns with what he calls incompetent conduct by his counsel. His lawyer says he would have filed an excellent appeal brief in the case, but respects Patel's choice. The Canadian Food Inspection Agency has once again expanded the list of pistachio products being recalled due to possible salmonella contamination. The latest addition grows the number of affected products to 220, distributed in every Canadian province except PEI. Earlier this month, the federal agency issued a public advisory for imported pistachio products from Iran after an outbreak of salmonella linked to various brands. The CFIA says those with the affected products are to discard them or return them to the point of purchase. You can find more news updated throughout your day. All you have to do is head to cbc.ca/Manitoba.
Thank you very much, Heather.
Thank you. Stay warm.
You too. Heather Wells there with your CBC local news. I want to take the time to say thank you to our amazing folks who worked here on our current affairs programs. Corey Funk, Abby Adiemi, Sarah Sanders, Chidi Akuma, May McKillop, Marshall Hodgins, Jenna Dasso, Dylan Longhurst, Chloe Friesen, Kyla Silva, Sophia Peralta, Barron, Tony de Guzman, Zubina Ahmed. And thank you to our CI reporters, Shanley Vidal and Jim Agapito. Let's turn to Corey Funk now. We'll look what's happening on that commute. Hey, Corey.
Hello. Yeah, may still be an illegally parked car northbound Osborne at Oakwood. Keep left to get around that. Other than that, though, really snowy, blowy out there on the highway, so just be careful.
Thank you very much, Corey.
Thank you.
Abby Adiemi, forecast.
Extreme cold is the main story. Today we're going to see temperatures in the south hover between minus 22 and minus 25 this morning and dealing with wind chills close to minus 30. But folks in the Dauphin area, you have a yellow extreme cold warning for you. You're going to be feeling like minus 40 today. While up north, we're just seeing temperatures feeling like minus 39.
Just describing that, Abby, you made me feel colder in this studio, I have to say.
I recommend some gingerbread and hot beverage.
Yes. Bite me, as it says on his sweater.
With the gingerbread on it.
Yeah, with the gingerbread on it, yes. Thank you very much, Abby. And thank you so much for joining us here this morning on Information Radio. I'm Marjorie Dowhouse in for Marcy Marcusa. Have a wonderful evening. Have a wonderful weekend. Stay tuned. Coming up next, The Current.